experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
Cue the drum rolls. It is Thursday. C.T. Muga, how are you?
Eric Latif, I am fine.
Hey, happy Thursday, C.T. Muga.
Merry Thursday to you, Eric.
Thursday is a big day here.
Yes.
Ndu,
Yes.
how are you?
Fine, thank you.
I'm
Good
talking
morning.
about Thursday, not Thursday.
What did I say?
Just to be clear.
Okay.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Right. Hey, the thing on your lips. What is it?
What?
I don't
City,
know.
can you see some? Huh?
I've seen her teeth. Was that what you wanted me to look at?
No, the lips.
Stick.
You've seen, right?
Stick.
Oh, it's the stick. Is that stick?
You know the thing about some of these things, I am not really...
It's not just a glow.
I,
Like a
there's
Thursday glow on the lip.
I don't know.
That's what it is.
It's a glow.
Thursday glow on the lips. That's what
I need,
Eric
then
Latin
I need
said.
to acquire Thursday visions.
Or is it... inaitwa nini?
Nini?
Balm? No.
Gloss.
Gloss.
Get it right.
Bam. Brother, we're going to figure Kaluma.
Vicks.
Vicks Kingo.
Wow, you guys. So, do we need to ask how you're doing this morning, Eric?
It's Thursday. That's good enough.
You fine?
Ah, yes, I am.
Super.
I thank God to be alive,
Amen. No.
to be healthy this morning.
No be small thing to sleep, wake up, now you're there alive.
Oh, yes, it is. I mean, why? Sio mchezo. People take things for granted, but we shouldn't be taking things for granted. Even those that don't believe in deity.
To be with himself.
He went somewhere with himself. Bas. Welcome to the show. We'll have a lot of discussions today. So the DPP presented his 2-year report to the president just the other day, and it's been the topic of conversation. We'll be having the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, on the show this morning to review the work that he's done since his appointment to that office in, was it 2018? And then we will also go back to America and see. So Trump is still doing the Trump thing. Biden is doing the Biden thing. The media, including CNN, are doing the CNN thing. We here in Africa will be doing our thing and asking ourselves, so looking at how America has just been governed in the last 4 years, looking at the elections in America, looking at how Americans, 70 million of them, voted for Donald Trump. And then there's the other 71 million who voted for Joe Biden.
76 now?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the kind of talk that they are talking. One side is saying it was America first. The other one is asking America what. So does America still have the moral authority to talk to the rest of the world about their own world?
You're asking a question that is best responded to by another question. Do they need the moral authority to lecture people as they see fit?
Yeah. Do they have it? Okay. Should people who are lectured listen? So we'll have that conversation as well. Today, the president will be going to the National Assembly, to Parliament buildings, to deliver a State of the Nation address. The last time he did that was in April last year. He's mandated to do that. He's required to do that by the Constitution, to address the joint sitting of Parliament once every year and give a State of the Nation of how his government is running affairs of the state. He'll be there today. He'll be talking about a number of things. He'll tell us about COVID-19, I'm sure. In his speech, I'm sure he'll mention the BBI. In his speech, I'm sure he'll remind us about the Big Four agenda. In his speech, he'll definitely mention the war on corruption and many other things. So we'll have that conversation. What is it that we want him to tell us? Yeah. Tunataka ajibu akiwa pande gani. But let's begin where we always begin, and this is COVID-19 in numbers. Another high number of deaths. Now, if the day before yesterday was the highest ever death toll, now yesterday then was the highest ever death toll.
With 26, 2 more than the day before. That's what. So now we're going to be calling them 26 reported deaths. So in a report that came in the last 24 hours, 26 deaths were recorded in the country. 1,216 new cases in Kenya yesterday, taking the number now to 65,854. That's what's going on in Kenya. 1,180 cases totally in the country. We also heard from the Ministry of Health yesterday about the Cabinet Secretary's thoughts on the Pfizer vaccine. We'll probably have a chat about that later. But I think it's a bit concerning that we're not really aware that a vaccine does what it does, and that a vaccine does contain a strain or a section of the actual virus, because what you're trying to do is encourage your body to build up antibodies against this virus.
It's a disease that's introduced into you so that it can stop the virus.
Actually, that is very correctly put.
How does that disease know that you're going to get
But
the
that's
virus?
exactly what it is. Now, I wish he had known that what he was saying was actually the truth. That a
No,
disease
he
is
does
being
know
injected.
this,
Was he being facetious?
Yeah,
Was he
yes.
pulling a prank?
In my opinion, no.
Because it would be. I do agree. Because it would be quite shameful if he believed that was the position.
Kagwe, he's been talking about vaccine for the longest, and it's one of those basics.
So you think he was joking?
He obviously does know. I think. Well, we'll discuss it. Later
we'll talk
in the
about it.
headlines,
It was
right?
taken out of context, was it?
No.
Was it?
No. The issue is not what he was talking about, the vaccine. The issue is the specific vaccine by Pfizer.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's look around the world. 10,708,633 cases out of the United States. States across continental America, California, Nevada, Arizona, up then in the east, Rhode Island, New York, and then in the Great Lakes area, Minnesota, Michigan, suffering from high cases of COVID-19. And now looking at, and they're really insisting that, you know what, social distancing, personal hygiene, washing your hands and wearing your masks will actually stop the spread of COVID-19. But it's been thrown out the window for a very long time. And very long time now means the last 4 weeks. That practice has been thrown out of the window, and more people now being affected. With 247,397 deaths, the US now is saying that a lot more needs to be done. Many lives are being lost, and they did not anticipate a loss of almost 250,000 Americans dying in the last 8 months. India, 8.6 million. Brazil, still climbing up there. But these are the two countries that seem to be suffering the brunt of this, the United States and India. France, Spain, the UK, Italy, all on lockdown at the moment. Germany as well on lockdown, looking at ways in which they can curb the spread. France and the United Kingdom right now are looking at stopping the sale of alcohol after 10 p.m. because they say if they can do this, even afterwards, if they can do this, then they see that they would be able to curb the spread if alcohol is not being sold.
After 10 p.m.
After 10 p.m.
Okay.
Even when they open up a little bit to see if that will change.
So there's no curfew in those two countries.
In Italy, no, but
What
that's
is the lockdown all about?
So no, France, there is a lockdown. In partial, where there's a complete lockdown right now is in the UK. So Italy, and they have a curfew until about that 11 p.m. and they're scaling down operations in restaurants and bars.
Okay.
But they're looking at the possibility of going into complete lockdown. The only country that is in complete is the UK.
How are they defining a complete lockdown and a partial lockdown?
Partial, so that you can be out until so they don't want to call it a curfew, but you can be out until a certain time. Whereas in the UK, bars, restaurants, everything is closed. Nobody's going out.
So that's a complete lockdown, bars, restaurants closed.
That is not a lot.
So I'm asking so that people are allowed to go to work, people are allowed to go to school, but then, and you're allowed to go out to buy essentials, but otherwise you stay at home. Is that it?
Yes.
That's
what's going on in the UK.
That's a lockdown.
According to them, yes.
All right. Partial lockdown is you can stay up to 7 or 8 or 9.
And then you must go home.
Then you must go home.
What we are calling curfew here.
So what would you call Wuhan?
Wuhan was a complete...
Wuhan.
Okay.
Wuhan was...
Because you're saying UK is complete lockdown. What is
according
Wuhan?
to them?
That's
for
why
me,
I asked about
that's why,
their
and that's why I
definition.
insisted on saying according to them. I've said it every time. According to them, for me, Wuhan was a complete lockdown. Nobody was going anywhere. There were only a few government officials, and what they were doing was bringing food and supplies to people's homes.
Don't
and
get
they were
out
the
of your
only ones who
house.
were given the authority to do so. You needed something, you had to call, and it would be brought to you.
At some point, Italy had the same.
Yes, they did.
It was stay indoors, don't come out. And now they're allowed to come out. You're allowed to go to work. You're allowed to, but reduce your movement as much as possible.
That's possible.
Okay. All right. So let them stop selling alcohol.
Ireland also is on a complete lockdown.
It'll make people not go out.
If they stop selling it. This is what they're saying. If they stop selling it after 10 p.m.
You know, the story around alcohol is a double-edged sword, and I mean literally that. Because it's a business. The production, the sale of it is part of the economy of this particular country. Now you're saying don't sell it. And alcohol, for all that it's stigmatized, has a very huge social function. So, again, how do you balance it? Because really it's not as though there's a perfect solution in this particular situation. But how do you balance it? How do you keep people employed? Because that employment is what ensures that the economy doesn't sort of like grind to a halt. At the same time, how do you keep people safe? Or how do they keep themselves safe?
You just tell them, just don't sell it after 11.
I think the response here is don't sell it after 9. If the owners of the establishments know that their business is in danger of shutting down simply because if they contravene the directives, one, those who want to drink will start drinking earlier. Because they know an hour to 9 o'clock or
You need
an
to be
hour to
gone.
10, you must be gone. And because the deterrent, we have seen people being arrested, we've seen clips of people being put in lovely lorries waiting for them, we've seen some escaping, some trying to escape and not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah.
So people now know that they will be arrested if they do not adhere. Look, there is no perfect solution for this COVID problem.
No, there really isn't.
And sometimes it appears like it's a hit and miss, but something must be done. And
Yeah.
this is what we are seeing. Something is being done. Okay. The UK right now has yet another issue. In terms of the deaths with reference to their population, they are not doing very well. They've hit 50,000.
Yep.
Now, 50,000 is not a small number. Yes.
What's that many death per million?
So the death per million in the UK right now, okay, so if we're looking at death per million population in the UK, 740. It's amongst the highest, some of the highest in the world, because in the United States, it's 746. It's 767 in Brazil. It's 1,057 in Peru. So it's amongst the highest in the world.
Yeah, that's
1,168 in Belgium. So we're looking at 740 in the UK. It's a worrying thing right now that they're looking at.
It's a big thing. Let's take a break now. Let's see whether it's going to be raining in some parts of Nairobi as people start getting out to go to work or whatever they'll be doing. 6:15, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Our live stream is up, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Say hello to us and we'll shout out to you on Facebook and Twitter. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
COVID-19 imeimpact lives za wasee wengi sana. Watu wame lose jobs, kutoka mama mboga, business owner next door, neighbor amefungiwa hao na landlord. Pesa imekuwa mteja, haipatikani hata ya kuweka chakula kwenye meza. Ili kujenga jirani, unaweza toa suu moja, 100 bob only, na hii inaweza badilisha maisha ya Wakenya wengi sana. Na usisahau kuungana na sisi for the Jenga Jirani Charity Festival 7th and 8th of November on KTN Home, na pia itakuwa online on www.jengajirani.org. See you then, ili tujenge jirani and show some love.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to
light rain
Spice
in some parts of
FM.
Nairobi this morning. We look at highs of 24 today and lows of 17. In Nakuru, mostly cloudy conditions at 14, highs of 24. It's mostly cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 23 today, lows of 14, and a chance of rains later on. Clear skies, however, in Eldoret, 22 the high and lows of 11. Kisumu experiencing light rain this morning, highs of 27 and lows of 18. It's mostly cloudy in Kakamega at 14 degrees at the moment, highs of 27 through today. Rain showers in Mombasa at 25, we've got highs of 29. The rain will continue for most parts of the morning. Mostly cloudy in Malindi at the moment at 16, going to highs of 26 and lows of 16. Let's look out into Kampala, where it's mostly cloudy at 15, going to highs of 24. Tanzania in Dar es Salaam, rain this morning at 26, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is mostly cloudy at 14, highs of 22 and lows of 12. Looking at Lagos, it's mostly clear at the moment, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Kinshasa is partly cloudy at 25, highs of 34 and lows of 24. It'll be a warm day today. Beijing, sunny conditions, however quite hazy, and the smog is quite heavy in Beijing today. 13 degrees at the moment, it'll go to highs of 19 and lows of 4. Paris is cloudy at 12, going to highs of 13 and lows of 10 today. It's mostly clear in London at 11. The highs will be 13 as things generally cool down. Rain showers in New York at the moment. They'll come into Thursday with highs of 21 and lows of 12.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Who's online, Ndu?
Okay, so good morning. Alex Mbogo is listening from Nyeri. And Musabi Jr., County 026. What is that?
County 026.
Do you know?
Let me refer to the Constitution.
I know what it is. I just want to see if
That's
you do.
schedule.
I-
Where is it?
Lukome Saboti. Specifically, it's opposite Kitinda Bakery. And that's where Musaba Jr. is listening in from.
So which county is that?
I don't know. Lukome Saboti. Saboti is which county?
Vihiga.
Okay, voila. Sesa. Mike Kiburu, as usual, is spiced in Nyeri as well. Soul Aware says that the proverbs should be, Confucius say, early worm be eaten by early bird. Ombamba Gikonge is tuned in from Ichuni Kisi.
That's a good one.
Isn't it? Morning,
Time
guys.
your departure. Uh-huh.
Bernard Masika says, good morning, tuned in from Nandi. Lawrence saying, good morning, friends, tuned in and receiving at Strength 5. Hey, okay, Lawrence, you'll have to tell us what that means. Charity Minor, tuned in from Nakuru. As is Laban from Nandi County. Good morning to Bade Ashley from Machakos. And Olo Caleb says, good morning, Siti, Eric, and Lady Ndu.
Good morning, Lady Ndu. County 026.
Yes.
Trans
Transoia, okay. Voila, now you know.
Tumejua. Asante sana kwa kutuambia.
How did they arrive at these numbers?
They just started
Like
from down like that. And went round.
001,
And then they
They
2,
finished
started,
in
they started
Nairobi.
from the Indian Ocean.
and
Yeah.
landed at 47.
Went
then
like
started moving
that, and then they came and finished in Nairobi. I can't really tell because look, I think counties that are next to one another in the former provinces. So in the former coast province, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the former northeastern province, Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, those are 7, 8, 9, 10. In the former eastern province, Isiolo, Meru, Tharaka-Nithi, Embu, Kitui, Machakos, Makueni, up to there, Makueni. But then we have not, we've done Marsabit, right? Marsabit, Isiolo, Meru, Tharaka Nithi, Embu, Kitui, Machakos, Makueni. That is former Eastern Province. So let's go to former Central Province. Nyandarua, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Muranga, Kiambu. And then now we're going to former Rift Valley. From Turkana coming all the way to Kericho, Bomet. Then go to Western. That is how many counties? From number 24 to number 36. Former Rift Valley. Former Western, 37, Kakamega, Vihiga, Bungoma, Busia. Then we go to former Nyanza, Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Migori, Kisii, Nyamira. Then we go to former Nairobi. Nairobi.
That sound that he made.
Yeah, I was going to ask. The sound effects are quite interesting.
Yes. That one. He was onomatopoeic speed.
And even coming down.
Down, yes.
It's not going up.
Yes, no. The going up has a different sound.
Okay.
Starting from Turkana. All right. City today's proverb.
If while climbing a tree you insist on going beyond the top, the earth will be waiting for you.
While climbing a tree.
If you decide to go beyond the top, the earth will be waiting for you.
Okay. Okay. Ni sawa.
Sawa?
Ni sawa. Ni sawa. Let's look at the headlines.
Okay. So,
Eh,
there's a tree,
yeah.
and it's not going anywhere. The fig tree that stood its ground, no throughway, the iconic tree at Nairobi's Waiyaki Way in Westlands, captured global attention after it was earmarked for felling to pave way for the 59 billion shilling expressway. Yesterday, the 100-year-old tree literally had its way after Nairobi Metropolitan Services boss Mohammed Badi announced that the road would be rerouted to conserve it as a symbol of Kenya's cultural and ecological heritage. So tree's not going anywhere. I remember when they said, look, this is going down, I thought to myself, wow, actually, it's one of the things I remember when I first came to Kenya, that tree in Westlands. And I was like, wow, every time we would come out there and we see the tree, I said, okay, it's nice, no? And then they wanted to bring it down.
To be honest with you, I've seen that tree. I've never really taken
You never
much notice of that.
Really? I always did. I always did.
What
I don't
about
know if it was
size
kind of
of
like
its
a
trunk?
landmark, and every time
The
because I
number
was
of-
new, I would remember, and I would say,
Where is
okay,
it
let's
exactly?
meet. It's in Westlands, and I would say, so let's meet.
Where?
Huh?
Tell him, where is it?
Okay, so Westlands, right? Just past the Westlands Mall. There's a petrol station. It used to be a Total petrol station. So then moving towards the post office, the tree is right there.
Geography is not your strong point, is it?
You know where the post office is in Westlands?
Post office.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let's leave it at that.
Okay.
I will look for the
You know
post office.
Mpaka Road,
Yes.
right? So this is the road that's the tree that's right there at Mpaka Road.
At
that
Mpaka
goes in.
Road.
I can-
Small bit of a
No,
roundabout.
I can
there.
actually see the tree now.
You can see it?
Small bit of a roundabout.
Yeah.
The Total petrol station thing lost me.
Okay.
But, yes, but even now I can see the Total petrol
Now
station.
you can see it, eh?
I can see it.
Yeah. Okay. So now this tree was a landmark for many, is a landmark for many. So it's 100 years old, and now yesterday it was given new life. And this tree is considered sacred amongst the Egikuyu. Did I say that right? The tree stands in the middle of the route where
You
the
said it right. It's the Egikuyu.
Get out of here. The tree stands in the middle of the route where the expressway is to be built. An announcement by the NMS that it would be cutting down the tree caused public uproar, with environmentalists taking to the streets in protest. Continue laughing. NMS had earlier said it would uproot and relocate the tree to an undisclosed location. Yesterday, NMS Director General Mohammed Badi announced that the tree will not be affected by ongoing roadworks, so it's not going to be relocated.
Wait,
you know how they said we can...
Are they going to relocate the tree?
Remember the whole riparian land issue with one Ferdinand Waititu? I said, you just move the what did he
river.
say? Move the river. Now, in this case, I want to move the tree. In this case, it's not going to
The
relocate.
river you can redirect. It wasn't wishful thinking.
No, but this
Chinese
one,
are
if you try
actually
to
very good
uproot
at relocating
Locating.
trees,
They do
but this
that.
one, if you're going to uproot this fig tree, try to put it somewhere else, it will die, right? So,
Eh?
the director also asked...
You're clearly a tree buddy.
I am.
You like
I'm a
trees.
hugger, yeah.
You're a tree hugger.
The director also asked the Chinese contractor of the multi-billion shilling highway and the Kenya National Highway Authority to ensure that the tree is not interfered with, even as construction goes on. Stephen Zioka, the Environment, Water and Sanitation Director in NMS, read the declaration to conserve the tree.
All right. So this is a project that has been talked about for very many years. It went through proper feasibility studies, and conversations had been had about what needs to go, what needs to remain. We have footbridges that are going to be removed. Others are going to put a road right above them. This tree, what was the conversation and the plan?
It was going to be removed.
And then taken where?
Felled. It was going to be felled. It's done.
Yeah,
Destroyed.
And that story of it being relocated.
The relocation of the tree.
So now, after the uproar, because people started taking pictures, it went on social media, and then globally it became a conversation and said, how can you remove an icon, right? Like this, 100 years old, it has not died. And then they said, okay, let's see if we can relocate it and plant it somewhere else, essentially. But then that
So
was
initially
not
they
work as
just looked at it and said, cut down this tree.
Initially, it was
And
going to
let's
be
move on.
felled, done, it's destroyed, right? And then later, can we take it somewhere else? And then the whole process of trying to take it and then replant it was not feasible.
An interesting point. This thing was planned for. Railway Club. Again, iconic. It's been there for the longest time.
Yeah.
But the government has even transferred 5 billion shillings, if I'm to believe the reports, to the National Land Commission so that people who were former employees of the railways and have a pension fund, that money would go towards the pension fund, so that 5 billion is not small change.
No, it's not.
But which tells you that, again, Eric's statement was spot on. Not only was this road well planned for, it was well budgeted and financed. Because you don't just find 5 billion shillings and give someone unless it had already been considered, it had worked on, and it was understood.
Yeah.
We are going to need this space, and to occupy this space is what we're going to need to do.
And where was the Ministry of Heritage in all this? Because we actually have a ministry in charge of heritage. We have the National Museums of Kenya. Where have they all been? We have Environment Ministry. What is it about this tree?
They were nowhere.
So it just takes the NMS to come in. The other question I was asking is, what functions exactly did Sonko sign off to, Buddy? Does it include the environment?
Let me just say this. It is a work in progress.
The transfer of functions is still happening.
Yes, let me
So
just
as
say
you go
that.
along, you can pick up things
Yes,
as you
because the debate still rages on. Ini yangu, ini yako, ini yangu, this is mine, this is yours, and it continues.
Because what powers then would Buddy have to issue this declaration? And this declaration stands against the project that's being run by the national government.
I believe the statement comes after discussions were had by the principals, and they said, Buddy, tell them we're not removing the tree. Yes. Because surely it is easier to reroute the road than to reroute the tree. Did I say it correctly? Yes. Okay. Translocate the tree.
All right. So if you move this road, looking at that section of it, who suffers?
Some building will suffer.
So you're talking about.
They'll be compensated.
See the buildings across it, that's Delta.
Let me repeat. Some buildings will suffer.
Yeah.
A building can be rebuilt.
Okay. You know, also, it doesn't have to take a detour. It can actually even go higher up.
Yes, it can.
So
Actually, it can.
Raise the road.
It can. It can be at the same level as even those buildings.
Okay.
I saw it in a movie.
You did. I was going to say, wow.
Can even pass through the building.
Saw it in a
At
movie.
this rate, pass through the building.
Right.
Let's
Stand-
take a break. Let's take a break. It's 9:30. Just when you're coming in.
It's not 9:30, no. Just calm down.
All right. Let's take a break.
So let's talk for the next 10 seconds. Then it'll be 9:30.
10 seconds. Stanchart cuts 200 jobs as corona defaults hits profit. After the break.
After the break. Sawa sawa. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads this morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
Spice up your life.
Okay, good morning. Let's see what it looks like now. On the roads, we already have a build-up on Mombasa Road, moving along slowly, sailing across from the SGR, then towards General Motors. Not too bad at the moment. Hopefully, it won't get much worse than this. But then again, we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, looking on Thika Road, coming out into the city centre at the Pangani Underpass. It slows down just a little bit as well as it clogs up there. Kiambu Road is also full already, and getting to the Muthaiga corner. It looks like it's going to be a full one today. From Survey all the way then out, it's moving very slowly right now, but it looks like it should be okay. Jogo Road, as you get to the City Stadium roundabout, has also filled up quite some. So we're looking at pockets of traffic in different parts of the city. At the moment, it's not too bad. It'll take a look about half an hour. So if you haven't left, now would be the time to do so or wait it out, right? Okay. Talk to us if you need to. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text us on 40127. Let's see what it looks like in your neck of the woods.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
I just said it's 9:30.
You did.
All right.
9:30.
Okay. So that it's 28 minutes to 10.
You know you're going to confuse people.
You're late. You had an 8 a.m. appointment. It's 2 hours ago.
You're early for tomorrow.
You're early for tomorrow.
You're early for tomorrow. Hiya. Tell us about the...
Standard Chartered, apparently, want to lay off 200 employees. As a percentage, this is 14.3% of its workforce.
Right.
Because of the COVID pandemic.
Right.
And because it's directly ravaging the profits. But that's not the only reason. The bank had begun a digital transformation strategy. And this obviously meant that certain functions that people actually conducted would be transferred to the digital equipment.
Yeah.
So combine these two, look at the profit margins right across board. It's not as though they're going to remove 200 people from one branch. They plan to reduce the workforce by 200. This is the first way.
200
Yes,
people.
Miambili.
In
Banks,
these COVID times.
In these COVID times. Banks, however, are known to have very lovely severance packages. What I'd like to find out is, one, the criteria they're going to use, because clearly they're going to say certain functions which have been taken over by the equipment that they brought in, but also whether they are actually going to pay these people their full dues. This is something I'd like to see.
All right. But then the other question that you keep raising, CT, look, you are going through a tough time. Yes, you can claim that you are going through digitization and all, but surely as a responsible Kenyan citizen, is this the time to start announcing layoffs for your staff? And it's not because your business is going at a loss. No, you've just seen a drop in your profit.
Yes.
Can shareholders of these banks just decide, all right, so we are going to forego our dividend so that we can retain our staff for an extra 1 year or something?
Your point is valid, and broadly so in this sense. Other banks are also reporting reductions in profits, not loss-making.
Reduction in
KCB profits are fallen by 43% on COVID loan defaults.
Yep.
Understandable.
Yep. In total, banks have lost 25 billion shillings in 6 months.
6 months.
Yes,
The low earnings meant that for every 100 bob invested by shareholders, the return stood at 8 shillings compared to 12 shillings that they earned in June last year. There's still an earning.
I would like to understand, I don't have the figures, but how SACCOs have fared over this same period. The reason why I'm asking is this.
Yep.
My view is that banks, by and large, have been very rigid in the way they approach matters. COVID has made them more flexible, and they have perhaps lived up to some of the advertisements that they keep telling us, we are you are us, and we are going to, or whatever it is that they say. They have opened up to having discussions with their clients. But it's COVID that seems to have forced them to do this. Had they been a little more open-minded, for instance, someone owes you money and they're supposed to be paying you 50 shillings, and they can pay you 10. Take the 10 for heaven's sake. Even if it's only paying a fraction of the interest, take the 10.
Something is
it's
coming.
nothing. But the way banks have always handled it, you're in default. Now they take the draconian passage.
Yep.
If you had security, gone. Now the problem is there aren't enough people to buy all these things that you want to sell.
Yeah.
So if this is an opportunity, I've heard people say this over and over, that COVID has given us an opportunity to reconsider many, many options and to relook at the way we do things.
Yeah.
It is an opportunity for banks, shareholders, the board members to actually rethink this. Is this the way to go? This is COVID. Can you have a discussion with your employees about reduction probably in their pay? Can you have a discussion about other things that you ordinarily don't think of? Because this seems to me as business as usual. We're not making money, people go.
Where people go home. 200 people just going home like that. I mean, that is, in this time, when you let go of 200 people, that's a very big number.
Yeah.
Think of the households they represent.
Yes.
It is a big deal. It really is.
It is a big thing. And it's not because you have actually made a loss. It's because you have seen a reduction in your profit. You've just gone through some turbulence. And here you are. This is what you're announcing. You're asking about SACCOs. You can imagine. So SACCOs, same people who invest or save in SACCOs are the same ones who've been borrowing in SACCOs.
Yes.
So many people then you'd expect, if you're seeing defaults in banks, you'd also expect defaults in the SACCOs. And in SACCOs now, the guarantor is
Your colleagues.
your colleagues.
Or your own savings.
Yep. So your own friends are also not able to help you to pay that. I can imagine the story may not be
Very different.
Much different.
I argue that it would be different. SACCOs are easier to talk to.
Now I'm talking about in terms of the growth in their defaults.
Or that will be there.
That is
It'll
they've
certainly
taken a
be
big
there.
hit in
Because-
their inability
yes,
then to continue.
Especially if the SACCO is embedded in a workplace, so it belongs to that particular institution.
Yep.
So if things go wrong in the institution, the SACCO will certainly,
SACCO
most certainly be hit.
That's for sure.
That's for sure.
And you can imagine then that when people are in financial distress, the first place that they want to run to is a SACCO. So schools are opening, you want to go to the SACCO to take a loan to pay school fees. Emergency loans, development loans, you'll go to the SACCO. And then the SACCO will look at the same thing that you look at. Look at your deposits, look at your pay slip if it's about pay slips, or look at whatever else.
You
So
know,
you're at a point where you're a SACCO, you're holding people's money, you have lent out people's money to them, they're not repaying, and they're still coming for more, asking for more. So what do you do?
and then
Do you
remember,
continue lending them? Do you tell them now we cannot lend?
you're talking about SACCOs which actually function and have money to lend. Stories are heard of SACCOs where the officials have lent themselves money. So if you ask, say, for an emergency loan of, say, 50,000 shillings, you are informed that you can be given 5,000 shillings a week, even as they sort themselves out. Essentially, you get the
as we look for
impression,
the money.
you get the impression you're being paid from the interest that they are accumulating.
They're
Now,
waiting for people to bring money,
money
then we
that
give
they
you.
give you. Now, when that happens, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And when you ask to actually receive all your money, what happens is you'll probably get it after a year.
Wow. So, KEMSA is going to lose 2.3 billion shillings as the CS has ordered it to sell PPEs cheaply. So, KEMSA has PPEs, okay? Health CS Mutahi Kagwe has directed the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority to dispose of its dead stock of personal protective equipment worth 6.2 billion at the current market price. The directive means taxpayers will lose about 2.3 billion as the personal protective equipment, which include masks, will be sold at significantly lower prices compared to the amount that the agency spent to procure them. KEMSA procured some of the items immediately after the first case was recorded in the country, when global prices for equipment meant to curb the spread of coronavirus were relatively high. For instance, KEMSA's price for the N95 surgical mask was 700 shillings then. The price has since gone down to 150. Yesterday, Kagwe also told the Senate and the National Assembly's Health Committee that he has since instructed the agency to proceed and sell all the equipment to counties. The CS also revealed that some officials fear that they will be prosecuted if they sell the stock at throwaway prices. The fears by the officers have been compounded by the fact that the stock is a subject of investigations by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over alleged irregularities in procurement.
See, people need the PPEs, right, in the counties. You
And
are
the
a government
PPEs are there.
agency.
And they're there,
The PPEs
yes.
are there. Now, starting to tell us that we're going to go at a loss. That is
Not
not
our
No, no, no.
business.
Thank you. It is not our business. First
Yeah.
of all, if you're saying you bought it with our money, then
It's
give
very
it
good.
to us.
Give
We've
it-
already
yeah.
spent the money.
Bring
Stop
it.
selling it. Give it to us.
And you're keeping it there. What is it doing?
You know, this is where the
going to
contradiction
lose,
comes
G.
in. You're telling us it's our money that bought it. Okay?
Then you say you
Then
don't
you're telling
want
us you're selling it. Wait. First of all, what are you doing? You have it. It's been paid for.
And people need it.
Distribute it.
What's the headline in the Nation about this Kemsa story?
You know, they say 4 billion Kenyan shillings COVID tenders dished out on phone. And then they proceed to illustrate who got what.
Okay.
And they give you details. And actually, if you look at page 4, a really saucy headline. Hello, come for a tender. How Kemsa dished out 4 billion deals.
The Standard has a story on page. What page is this? Smudged. Page 37 in business. And it's how it was being reported in Parliament yesterday by officials who are not in suspension at KEMSA. Same thing. People would walk into KEMSA and say, you know what, I can supply. And they told, okay, you go and bring. Yeah. It was the bizarre manner in which the state agency procured the COVID-19 supplies. In what may pass as the most strange procurement process, officials admitted to the National Assembly's Public Investments Committee that representatives of the companies would walk in and ask to supply PPEs. And then they'll be told, sawa.
The question that was asked is, how did these companies know that you needed the PPEs? Clearly word of mouth.
They're in business. I mean, when you're in business, you can see where the need is.
Not only
COVID
that.
has come. People need PPEs. Who supplies PPEs? KEMSA. I mean, that's a very...
You know, when
I
you
was gonna
practice
use the word silly,
crony
but no.
economics, okay, word goes around. Word goes around. It's PPEs are needed.
Yes.
Who has? And people brought PPEs into the country.
Yes.
Yes. And they sold. And they were paid.
And they were paid. So they're just phone call away. It was an emergency.
Now, having paid for these PPEs, why do they want to sell them again? Distribute the PPEs.
The cost we have already bought them.
It's been bought.
They've been bought.
And doctors across the country and nurses and other medical workers need these PPEs.
Abi, why were they buying them? Sorry, I think it's important for us to ask. Why were they buying them in the first place?
Buying so that we can have supply in the
KEMSA actually
Is it
buys
not for
things.
people? I understand.
Buy and
but
then
is it
sell
not so
to the
that to
counties.
essentially send them out to the counties so that they can be mopped up again?
So to sell to the county.
Isn't it?
Yep.
I know.
The understanding
Carry
was
on.
this: the economies of scale would come into force because KEMSA will buy in bulk.
Yep.
So ostensibly it will be cheaper. So instead of counties trying to buy piecemeal, which it is assumed would be expensive, is that not the thinking? Okay. Now, given where we are, just give them out. They've been paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah, give them out. I don't know. I was still wasting time.
Yeah, but
Honestly,
let
just-
counties dish out the cash, fork off some cash. It's okay.
They don't have money. You didn't hear they haven't paid salary.
Let them
Meru
pay.
yesterday they went on strike. They've not been paid.
Actually,
Counties
Eric,
don't have money.
We are not treating COVID as an emergency. We should not be having this debate of money and people telling us we're losing. This is
losing.
nonsense.
It's rubbish.
Dr. Mercy Korir said from the very beginning, you know what? Everything COVID should be footed by government. Go to hospital, you walk out. COVID, go to hospital, walk out. There's a story now today in the People Daily that says the CS for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, has told people, forget NHIF, by the way, with COVID. We are not going to, NHIF is not going to be able to foot these bills. We are seeing the number of people who are going to hospital with COVID-19 increasing and rising, and NHIF will not be able to afford
Handle
to
this.
pay all these things. Remember, private insurance companies are already saying,
Sorry.
pandemic, and they can't cover. So Mutahi Kagwe is now saying, now, NHIF cannot foot this bill as well. So forget it. You're being told basically you're on your own.
Yes. Yes.
You
again.
go to hospital, you are going to pay.
You know,
Yes,
you find
Serikali-
people taking
Eric,
themselves to hospital with those
you're
symptoms.
very prophetic. This is something you said from the very beginning. You know something, guys? You know we're on our own here.
Kabisa.
You know, we go around in circles And then you get an official statement. You're on your own. The moment someone tells you NHIF is not going to help you, what stops a hospital from saying that this thing is COVID related? You know, I can't test myself to determine whether the test that has been conducted is actually what it says. So if a hospital wants to go around it and not incur the cost, just it's COVID.
It's COVID.
How am I going to prove it isn't COVID?
How will you counter it?
Yes. How?
You can't. It's hard now.
And here we are. This is at the point where we are seeing more and more people getting sick with COVID. More and more people seeking hospitalization. We saw the other day the nation had an elaborate report of the costs of COVID. If you go into severe cases of COVID, you're talking about upwards of 500,000 shillings. So, and Uhuru will be talking to us in Parliament today.
Yes, he will.
And he'll tell us it's important for us to observe the measures. But he'll not tell us we are on our own. We've got to figure that out for ourselves. 6:45 this time. It's 6:45 a.m. That is 45 minutes after 6 a.m.
You've gone back in time,
Roderick has just told us, with that lengthy statement he has made, if you walk out of your house and you find droplets of water falling on your head, you can rest assured it is raining. Okay.
No, it's rain.
I've got you. Got you.
Take a quick break and then we continue the conversation. Celebrate some people. Let's celebrate a lady called Alice Wairimu Nderito. She's a Kenyan. She has been appointed by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to be the UN Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide. Right? Big appointment, big recognition of a Kenyan. This lady is a former commissioner of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. She also works at the Kenya National Human Rights Commission on human rights education and capacity building. She's an expert and experienced in dispute resolution and conflict resolution, especially armed conflict. She has participated in bringing peace to various communities around Africa. She was one of the 3 mediators who led the signing of a peace agreement by 10 feuding ethnic communities in Nakuru. She was involved in the process that led to the signing of the Kafanchan Peace Declaration in southern Kaduna, Nigeria, and was a lead mediator in mediating an ethnic dispute involving 56 communities in southern Nigeria, leading to the signing of the Southern Plateau Inter-Community Peace Declaration. She has also done the same kind of work in South Sudan as well. Now, there she is, recognized by Antonio Guterres, made the UN Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide.
That's a good thing. And congratulations.
We celebrate such people, and as we should. Yeah.
Okay. So, the Legio Maria at it again.
Oh, yeah.
The fight pitting 2 factions of the Legio Maria Church could shift from Gotkware in Migori after the police obtained court orders locking out 2 camps from another significant center in Tingwangi in Siaya. A deadly clash in Migori 2 months ago.
Tingwangi.
Yo.
Tingwangi. Lift your eyes.
Tingwangi.
Ting, lift,
Tingwangi.
eyes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Fungua macho. Okay.
Or panua macho.
Panua macho.
So, a deadly clash in Migori 2 months ago saw 8 people killed and several others injured as the factions led by Pope Raphael Adika and Pope Lawrence Kalulu fought over the control of the church headquarters. On Monday, Principal Magistrate Lester Simiyu ordered the closure of the church in Siaya for 30 days, pending investigations by the police. For further order, tranquility and preservation of life, the respondents, their agents, followers, or through whosoever are restrained from entering or congregating at the Legio Maria Church situated on land Siaya. So on this land, according to the order. So according to County Police Commander Francis Coley, the police sought court orders to help unravel what is causing the conflict between the 2 groups led by Adik and Kalulu, who are both claiming ownership of the church. So now, court has said none of you will enter. Let's find out what's going on. And from there, we'll be able to tell you whom it belongs to. Reminds me of the biblical story of the two women who presented themselves to Solomon and said, the baby is mine. And Solomon said, okay, cut the baby in half.
Split the baby in
Let's
half.
see who will take it. So now we're at the cutting of the baby point.
Because there are two popes. And the popes' adherents are saying, Shaurienu. There's this thing that says the Legio Maria Church has been embroiled in leadership wrangles since 1991, when its founder Melchior Ondeto died. Then Timotheo Blasio Attila became the second Legio Maria Pope until his death in 98. The third Pope was Lawrence Chiagi, who took over in 2004. And when he died, and Raphael Adika took over in 2009, wars for the control of the church began, pitting him, that is, Pope Adika, against Pope Ongombe. Now, kimeumana.
Is it the battle of the popes or is it the two popes?
Why is Netflix?
I'm telling you,
Dorothy
Netflix
Gituba
is
should actually do
everywhere.
this.
Netflix is everywhere.
Dorothy Gituba, who is the head of Netflix in African content, in fact, they should just be looking at, we already have the two popes from Nini. Let's do another two popes production in Kenya.
For Kenya.
Rice farmers are staring at losses. You know why? Because there are no markets.
Sorry?
Rice farmers in Budalangi, Busia County, are staring at huge post-harvest losses due to lack of ready market and proper storage. The farmers are currently storing tons of the produce at home, with plenty more ready for harvest, and those whose rice is due for harvesting are also at a loss on where they'll dry their produce because most homes are still submerged in water. Farmers from Magombe, Ruambo, and Mudembi said that they had invested up to 30,000 per acre in crop production, and they now risk going at a loss. The biggest market for rice farmers in Budalangi has been Uganda. But with the eruption of COVID-19, buyers no longer cross the border to purchase the cereal. Rice stores at the National Irrigation Board in Budalangi are full of the cereal from the local farmers. This is a conversation that I do not even understand how we can be having such a conversation. So first of all, our rice is sold into Uganda and we import rice from Pakistan. Then, now we are talking about farmers who have planted and their crop is ready for harvest because there was proper nice rain and water and rice enjoyed the water. Now it's time for harvest, but we can't even dry it because farms are submerged, homes are submerged. And there's no talk at all about what would we do. We saw this, I mean, you could have predicted that it would be harvest time in September, in November. And here we are. Farmers are wondering, so what do we do?
What are we going to do?
When you hear this, already people have lost. By the time it's hitting here, people have lost. And these are jokes. Busia County Government, we have a National Irrigation Board, we have National Cereals and Produce Board, we have a Ministry of Agriculture, we have a Ministry of Devolution, we have a government. And we have a president who's going to talk to us in this afternoon. He will not mention rice farmers or any farmer for that matter.
It's not going to come out.
You know,
What other state of the nation do we want?
as you're reading it, the thing that came to my mind is food security. We actually have more food than you know what to do with. Is that not what we're reading here?
That's what we're being told.
Yes. And I'm sure if you ask the story of maize, you may find it's not very different. And then what we will find particularly or peculiarly interesting is not long from now, we're going to be told we don't have food. So you ask, wait, that food that we said we had in abundance, where exactly did it go?
Yeah, we'll soon be told we're at zero.
Rotting.
Ekasa will soon make that announcement that there's nothing.
Rotting.
So that you can pave way for
aflatoxin.
more
Imports.
to be bought.
You can pave way
The
for
president
imports
will
and
be in
somebody's eating the
parliament
money.
today. He will talk about the Big Four agenda. Big Four agenda, one of them is
Food security.
food security. He will talk about, how our agricultural sector has really, held the economy afloat during this time. He will not talk about what the government has done to, for example, look at the plight of these rice farmers in Budalangi, or the plight of farmers elsewhere. Access to markets. Mangoes are rotting just there in West Pokot.
Do you remember when we had Professor Nyang Nyong'o, governor of Kisumu? He told us that he had faced similar problems with his rice farmers in the Ahero area, and they were taking steps to ensure that farmers don't lose out, because they said the value addition was one of the things that the rice farmers that region didn't have.
Yep.
But you see, it isn't just rice farming. That is a sugar cane growing area as well.
As well.
You don't hear of any positive plans to revamp that particular industry so that the sugarcane farmers can actually do what they do best, farm sugarcane.
They'll tell you the positive steps that have been taken.
What?
We are leasing out the sugar factories to the private sector so the private sector can revive them and run them. We have already written off the debts of the sugar factories. That's done.
In that story, details need to actually be discussed, because the issue of whether there were losses, whether they were written off, how much money was made, because for you to talk about losses, we need to ask what was owed, what has been made over the years, where did that money go to? Because blanket statements, loss.
Yeah.
Hey.
Go on. Quickly on losses still. Today, in home away, in the pullouts today, hotels have been the biggest casualties of the coronavirus pandemic, with their mainstay tourism events and conferences drying up owing to restrictions in travel and other measures meant to curb the spread of the disease. The headline of this story is that auctioneers failed to sell prime hotels. According to Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala, in August, he said we lost 50% of our revenue of 100 billion, with the second half of the year being as good as zero. The industry has recorded millions of job losses, shutting down and auctions. Nairobi Hotel, for example, valued at 500 million in 2015, has been in the market since February, unable to sell. Garam Investments put it on sale in a bid to cover a debt owed to the National Bank. It said that the hotel has a 5 million shilling gross monthly income. 3-star hotels in Nairobi were put up in auction in August, indicating the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic. Banks hired auctioneers to dispose of the Lebanon Hotel in South B, Hotel Grace Villa and Guest House in Ngara. This still till today has not happened. 41 billion shillings, the defaults on mortgages in the year to December 2018 from 27.3 the previous year. So even those who've defaulted are not able to pay. Even when the auctioneers come in, it would appear that there's no willing or ready buyer.
For that.
It's
At the
actually more,
moment.
there's no able buyer.
Yeah. There's
And
not
those who
able
might
buy.
actually be able to buy are not going to buy it.
Nobody has
They'd
the
rather
money
keep their money.
at this point.
Tough times.
It
There's a
is.
story here about a man who was killed by his 2 nephews. David Simiyu Wanyama was killed by his 2 nephews and 2 grandchildren right next to a coffin that he was making for the burial of his brother. Issue happens. Wanyama's brother dies in April 2018. His sister had also died. 2 days later, Wanyama goes to prepare a coffin for his brother. However, the family hasn't agreed on who to bury first, whether the brother or the sister. Wanyama's 2 nephews and 2 grandchildren beat him to death. They were arrested on the same day, and now the High Court has found them guilty of murder. Murdering your grandfather and your uncle because he was making a coffin to bury his brother. Because there's a dispute about who to bury first between his brother and his sister. What kind of tragedy is that?
Crazy.
Serious tragedy. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we talk about the fight against corruption and all other vices in the country. We'll be talking to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, to hear what the details of the report that he presented to the President the other day, the plans that they have going forward on completing the prosecutions that have already commenced and even getting prosecution going, especially in the fight against corruption. Good morning. Remember, we are live streaming on Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter, and we are also on www.spicefm.co.ke, and we'll be live on KTN Home for the next 2 hours, 7 to 9. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Okay, still looking at build-up of traffic on Mombasa Road this morning. Heading towards the city centre is snail's pace, bumper-to-bumper action all the way from the SGR, and that's headed out into the CBD. Let's look at Uhuru Highway, then all the way from Nyayo Stadium through to the CBD, then out towards Westlands. That's moving very slowly today. Also on Thika Road, as you come out, it starts at Allsops. It's moving slowly as you're heading to the CBD, however, not too much of an issue. As you join at the Muthaiga corner, and then also traffic coming in from Kiambu Road, that is a bit slow. All the way from Juja, however, heading in that direction, it's clear. Let's look at Jogo Road. When you're heading into the CBD, either going towards industrial area or the CBD, at the City Stadium roundabout, there's a holdup of traffic from all different directions. So this one we need to look out for. And then coming out of Westlands, it's moving slowly as well. The Red Hill bypass is an option. Remember, construction on the expressway continues, so this hampers traffic. A word for the wise today: if you can use the bypasses, use them, because of the expressway, traffic is going to come to a standstill in some parts. All right, Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter or text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 7, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. A very good morning to you wherever you're tuned in on Spice FM online, and now joined by our audience on KTN Home. Good morning. This is The Situation Room. CT Muga, let's begin with today's proverb.
If while climbing a tree, you insist on going beyond the top, then the earth will be waiting for you.
If, while climbing a tree, insisting on going beyond the top, the only way is...
The earth will be waiting for you.
Okay.
Plan B and C.
That's the only plan.
Well, unless you can fly.
Hey. Or you fall back on the tree.
You've gone beyond the top. So you've left the tree.
So you just come back to the top.
Well, if you have that capacity, then by all means, fall back into the tree.
Right. So let's talk about the state of prosecutions in the country. And we know that we have seen like the invigorated fight against corruption, right? Since the appointment of the new DPP, and even before that with the previous DPP, Keria Kotobiko, with the appointment of the new DPP, with the appointment of a new boss at the EACC, with the appointment of a new boss at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, and them working together as a multi-agency task force and deciding that we want to fight corruption. So what have we seen since then? We have seen some improvement in terms of the number of prosecutions started. We have seen also some improvement in the number of prosecutions concluded. We have seen the number of cases jump. So just to give a brief, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Nuruddin Haji, presented a report, and he presented it to the President the other day. And in that report, he was detailing the kind of work that they've done since 2017, looking at the year 2017, 2018, and 2019, 2020. That's by June this year. Conviction rates. 2017, 2018, it was at 90.2% of the cases taken to court went into conviction. 92.5% is the conviction rate in the year 2019-2020. That's a jump of a whole 2%. In corruption cases alone, we saw 37.4% conviction rate in 2018, and in the first half of 2020, 63.16% That's a good rate in terms of the jump in corruption conviction rates. The focus has been on high-profile and high-impact cases. This is the focus that we were told by the DPP when we interviewed him here. We also told the same is the focus by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. We are investigating corruption, and we go for high-profile, high-impact. Go for this one case that will send shockwaves down the spine of many others. Specialized thematic divisions were established by the DPP. There were recovery of proceeds according to the report. And then they also adopted the use of experts. In deciding now we are going to bring in an expert in, for example, matters of financial analyst. Bring in an expert so that this expert can help us in putting together the case. So as we go to court to present our case, strong case. Sounds like, some good progress has been made.
It is actually very good progress when you consider what they purposed to do. But perhaps what we should focus on is what hinders them from probably achieving that 100% mark, because the aim is to get to 100%.
Yep.
What is it that prevents them from actually doing this? Is it issues within or among themselves? Is it external issues? Is it an issue of resources that are inadequate? What is it? Because they clearly did not get to 100%. And they're not moving as fast as they had purposed. So something must be happening, because in terms of effort, you only need to open any newspaper or listen to the news. There's always some effort being made in this fight against corruption. And unfortunately, it's just that the fight. The conclusions are not many. And we would very much like for the conclusions to be many.
Sure, I think that's the cry. That's the cry for many Kenyans, that you want to see that knockout punch. And if we talk about these convictions then standing as deterrents, people can enjoy their lives while these cases are in court. But until and unless you see when it's been flattened and that somebody is going to jail because of what has happened, to me, the deterrent doesn't stand. Until that happens, it doesn't really serve as a deterrent to anybody else who might have their hands in the cookie jar. Because they would look at it and say, okay, well, I could live a very good part of my life enjoying the proceeds of whatever it is that I'm going to do. This is what it's going to be. Even with the rulings that have come and say, wrap up these things within 2 years. The practice previously has been, and as we see, that people enjoy their lives out there while these cases are in court. But then you see a conviction, and somebody from that conviction goes into jail and also then has to pay a fine. That is, I think, is what would drop the hammer.
You see, the conversation with the DPP makes sense. And it is correct that the president should be reported to have said what he is reported to have said. However, the DPP doesn't make the final decision. This conversation also ought to be had with those who make these decisions, because when they've done due diligence, they take these matters to another body within our structure.
Yep.
And that body actually have the final say on these matters. This conversation also ought to be had with them, and we also need to understand why it is their processes don't move as quickly as we think and hope they would move, and what it is that prevents them from doing what they're supposed to do as well as we expect them to do it.
The issue of capacity and everything else.
Whatever else, because they would be best placed to explain to us why it is they don't do these things, because we see the DPP and what they do, and we see them moving, gets to court.
The issue that, and many times even the EACC boss, Twali Mbarak, has told us, case goes to court, case takes an average of 10 years, and this is a corruption case. 10 years to conclude. And you're wondering, so why is it taking so long? Look at the Waluke case. How long has it taken to conclude? By the time you're getting to conclusion, so when you're saying that you have, for example, this year, between 2018 and 2020, you have had 238 cases concluded. Those 238 cases are cases that even were started before 2018, some of them before 2008, right? And that's when they were just getting concluded in these last 2 years, 238 cases. Good thing, but then why does it take so long? Is it due process? Is it what is expected that, because we are pursuing justice, we shall not rush it so that we ensure that we get everything that we ought to get? But also, are you denying justice to the person who's being wrongfully accused, who believes that they've been wrongfully charged with an offense? As long as the case is in court, everybody says that you're a suspect. Everybody says that you are going you are going through a case in court.
We in Kenya, do we say that we say in our minds you're guilty?
Yeah.
We're just waiting for the courts to determine what we already know.
In fact, you're just waiting for the punishment, what it will be. The thought of it being innocent doesn't actually come into people's minds.
No.
By virtue of the fact that there's a charge against you and then you're taken to court and then whatever trial process has begun. It's a matter of waiting to see what
If
the
you're
sentence
innocent,
will
why
be.
are you in court?
Exactly. You can't be in court and you're innocent. That's the mindset.
But think about it. Also of significance, if you think about this. We've had very many courts, specific and special courts set up to deal with many issues. If this matter is of such grave importance, surely, should they not have been, not just a court, but a robust court, or if not, legislate something that determines, okay, this has been done, so that we know that from beginning to start, the longest time this thing is going to take is this. But so long as we're just talking about cases being rushed and specific action not being taken to ensure that these things, with all the bodies that work around this, is done, it's just going to be just that talk.
There was talk of, remember the miscellaneous amendment bill that was going to Parliament, which was then withdrawn because the agencies started fighting. The EACC, the DPP, the DCI, they started fighting on who should have what say.
And what powers,
and what powers they have. But some of those proposals included, like saying that a corruption case should take 2 years, maximum 2 years from beginning to start, as it is said, right? 2 years to conclude it. This proposal is also contained in a new BBI report. It says, have 2 years, corruption cases are dispensed with. This, I think, would be a good thing because in some cases as well, there are those who accuse the prosecutors and the investigators of rushing to court to hit the headlines, and yet then they start working backwards to complete a case, to build up a case against you. Cases that started and then they don't move as much. So, for example, there are cases, NYS 1, NYS 2, we still have those cases, they're somewhere. We have cases that we have seen people being arrested and rushed to court. For example, in the former Auditor General's office, was it Auditor General? Yes, where some officers were arrested, were taken to court, corruption allegations, corruption charges. What's the nature of that case? Has it started? Has it moved anywhere? Who knows? And there are those who feel, you know what? So sometimes you're just rushing. It's finalized. It's taken to court. And then do we have is the prosecution ready? In fact, if I remember, I don't remember which judges were this, but there are some judges who also pointed the same finger at the prosecution and told them, if you're starting a case here and you're not ready, please don't bring it. We start this case, there's no adjournment by prosecution. It's we start, we move. Go. Don't come and adjourn and say, you know what, our witness is not available. Get all your ducks in a row and then come to my court.
But what I often wonder when I hear of this, because I ask myself, is it that they are reacting to pressure that they must present cases in court, or is it with full knowledge of what the law states and what the law is, they deliberately pull this stunt so that the case can be thrown out? Because you take it to court and there isn't sufficient evidence, that case is finished.
It's finished.
Done. Yeah.
It goes.
It's gone.
Yep.
So who would be the one? I mean, so now you bring in a case, insufficient evidence. Who would as the prosecutor, looking for the chance to throw away this case, essentially, you would bring in insufficient evidence?
I'm saying that discussion has to be brought in.
Yeah, it's a big one.
There are those that actually also throwing the same, that, there are very many cases that maybe have been taken to court where the entire end game is played out. We're going to take this to court and it should be thrown out.
It is planned and determined.
It reeks of collusion.
Yes.
It is it is collusion.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So it doesn't hint.
This is a full duck.
Yeah.
Wow. So, you see, for the longest time, these are discussions that have taken place, and these are the discussions that have given our court system a bad name. Because it falls under their purview. All these things are done. And then, remember, there was this push by the officers, the ODPP, to ensure that the prosecutors were actually people who were trained in law. Previously, it was said that because many of them were also police persons, one, they were cited conflict of interest, they were cited, many things were cited, but they said, look, let's just have people who are lawyers doing this work. The assumption being that due diligence would be done. Remember when you had police prosecutors, there was logic behind it.
Yeah.
because they are the ones who conducted the investigation. They understood some of these prosecutorial factors that relate to the cases. However, that's a debate for another day. The truth of the matter is that there are too many things at play in this particular system. So you're never really sure what it is you're dealing with. But what is also certain is that we will not lack someone to blame.
That's for
We'll
sure.
have someone. Let's bring in the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
And just been discussing the report that you presented and that you produced of the work that you've done since 2017 to date, I think up to June 2020, right? And looking at what we are looking at, the highlights, the key highlights of these conviction rates jumping from 90.2% in 2017 to 92.5% in 2020, and in those in corruption jumping from 37.4% to 63.16%. That's a good jump. The question, though, that C.T. Muga raised after hearing this is, so how do you explain the 37% that you did not get the conviction rate for? I'm sure as an ODPP, when you start a case, you're going there fully confident that you're going to get a conviction.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody, once again.
Good morning.
Yeah. Well, you know, the question actually should be, how did we achieve the 63? But now you're asking, why do we have that difference or shortfall? There is quite a number of factors for that, and to be frank, and I'm just being very frank, and I've submitted this document so that the public can appraise us in a very frank manner. Of course, there are challenges that we have in court. Some could be attributed to issues of us having lost the cases, that is acquittal. Some is attributed to the fact that some of the cases are not concluded yet, and once they're concluded, then the percentage will definitely change, and many other factors that could contribute to that, including maybe withdrawals of cases where we found that either the evidence that was initially tabled to us has changed because of a number of factors, including the fact we always review cases even when they're in court, and when new evidence comes in, we have to take that into consideration. So there is quite a number of factors to explain the difference or the shortfall, why we can't get 100%. That should be my answer. But in any situation, and if you have to go to any jurisdiction, it is not possible to get 100%. And the reason being, this is a process, and as I've said over and over, it's a sieving process. That's why we have the complainant who goes to complain to the investigator.
Yep.
Then the investigator investigates to establish whether he thinks there is evidence. And that's a sieving process, because then if we were to take it from the complainant and just take it to court, you are bound to fail. Once the investigator completes, then they forward it to the prosecutor, who then sees further whether that file has evidence or not. And again, the prosecutor then presents it to court, where you get a further refinement and sieving process that now looks at whether the evidence is there or not. And it is a process. You will hear sometimes the investigators complaining that the prosecutor has refused to charge.
Yep.
It is the same as courts saying, prosecutor, bona prosecutor, you don't have the evidence.
Yep.
And you've lost in court. So it is a process, and it is the same thing where you will have the complainant complaining that the investigator has refused to investigate this because he feels there is no evidence or there's nothing to investigate. So it is a process, and that's why the Constitution has designed it that way, and that's why most jurisdictions all over the world, in fact all, have designed it that way. It's supposed to refine the process as you go. Because here, what we are doing is taking away a person's civil liberty. And it's a very serious decision to make. And that's why we have all these stages that we have to go through.
Okay. But looking at benchmarking yourselves against other prosecutors in the world, especially in, let's say, cases against corruption, 63...
I can assure you 63% is very good, above, average. And you can do your own...
And what would the average be?
Well, it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but 50% and above is very good.
Okay.
Of course, the question will be what kind of cases are you then winning?
Mm-hmm.
It's slow in Kenya. We are taking time. A lot of the cases, Kenyans will feel that maybe it is the so-called small fishes or medium fishes, not the big fishes.
Yeah.
But I think we are coming to that.
Mr. Hadi, you talked about being extremely careful because essentially what's happening here with this process is taking away a person's civil liberty. So you have to be extremely cautious in the process as to how you go to this. At the same time, on the other end of the spectrum, you're looking at an individual who potentially may have taken away funds that would have fueled development in a country, for example. Is that taken into consideration when this process is taking place as well?
Yes, and if you look at how we presented our cases and how we have argued on the kind of bail that we as prosecutors feel if it was to be given, or our arguments against bail and allowing these individuals back, you will understand that we have taken that into consideration. At the end of it, constitutionally, even the accused has a right. And the mantra is you're innocent until proven guilty. And the onus is on us to prove that you're guilty and to present evidence beyond reasonable doubt. That's, basic. So even the accused has a right, just like the victim.
Mm-hmm.
But it is when we go to court and present our arguments, especially during plea, that then you will understand the seriousness that we take on that offense. And I think if you look at most, or all actually, that we've brought since I took office, we have argued for very high bail. In fact, the first case that we brought, NYS, the bail was very high, that individuals and lawyers and everybody complained, and they had to go to the High Court for it to be reviewed lower.
Mm-hmm.
So when we present, we take this very seriously, and our arguments are tabled in such a manner that we ensure that person is curtailed. And you see the fight that we are having with governors. The other day, you saw what they've written before. They've said that they need to be given immunity, basically because since 2018, we've insisted that they have to step aside and they cannot go back to office.
Yep.
And they cannot continue with business as usual. They are not happy. They have taken us to court to challenge that continuously. We've gone all the way to the Supreme Court. They have gone, the Council of Governors have gone again to the Constitutional Court because we have tightened the noose around them. And that shows the seriousness that we take with this. If you look at the Waluke case, for example, the highest, fine ever in Kenya when it comes to corruption cases, over 2 billion. And cumulatively, the individuals are going to serve 163 years in incarceration. But then again, they've rushed to the High Court. And because of the Constitution, you're allowed to do that. They have appealed. And one of them is out there, in Parliament, being given...
standing ovation almost.
Yes,
heroes welcome.
So
I think these are some of the challenges that you face, and as we continue the conversation, you'll be explaining to us some of the challenges that you face. But also, we want to put you to task on some of the work that you do as well, as you said.
Yes, sure. And that's why we're here, and that's why we presented the report so that Kenyans can appraise it.
Good. So let's take a break at this point. 25 minutes after 7, we are speaking with the Director of Public Prosecutions, Noordin Haji. Released a report on the performance of the ODPP since 2017 to date. And that's what we are looking at. We're looking at the challenges, we're looking at the successes, and we're also looking at where it is that he would require much support from the public and from the government and from the other agencies. Good morning. Time for us to take a break on KTN Home, on Spice FM and online. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Are you ready? Tell the DJ turn it up, let the DJ bring it back. Tell him that you like that,
Yeah. Rude boy, I'm a Rudy. See my fans wanna shangilia.
It's that time again where we bring you the best of music and entertainment. The 6th edition of the Pulse Music Video Awards 2020 is here. Owning the virtual space in Kenyan music is the theme for this year, so get those nominations coming through and we will bring the acts to you. Simply log on to www.standardmedia.co.ke/PMVA and submit your favorite songs starting 3rd November to 17th November 2020, and we'll do the rest. This year, we are bringing the entertainment back to life. Pulse Music Video Awards 2020, the only way to get alive.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
17 will go to highs of 24. Chance of rains coming back in the day. 16 degrees and mostly cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 14. It's also mostly cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 23 and lows of 14. Eldoret, clear skies at 12, going to highs of 22 today. It's partly cloudy in Kisumu at 19, going to highs of 27 and lows of 18. Kakamega is partly cloudy at 19, highs of 27 and lows of 14. Mombasa experiencing rain this morning, highs of 29 and lows of 24. It's partly cloudy in Malindi at 19 at the moment, going to highs of 26. Looking to Kampala, it's mostly cloudy at 17. The high will be 24 and lows of 16. It's raining in Dar es Salaam at 26. Highs will be 28 and lows of 24. Looking into Joburg, it's 14 degrees and cloudy conditions, highs of 22 and lows of 12. Lagos is mostly cloudy at 24. 31 will be the high today. 34 will be the high in Kinshasa, where it's mostly cloudy at 25 with a low of 24.
Chilled Spice.
All right, guys, drive carefully if you're headed to or from Kangundo Road today at Njiro. 3-car accident has taken place. Traffic is already building up there. Police are on site to try and sort that out. But if you're headed that direction or coming out, please be extremely careful because that is what lies ahead. Mombasa Road is clogged. It's bumper to bumper all the way from before the weighbridge now. It's moving very slowly as you then try to approach the JKIA turnoff. Remember that the expressway construction continues and this is exacerbating traffic in most parts. Mombasa Road coming to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, heading then on Uhuru Highway towards the CBD and then out towards Westlands. It's an absolute mess this morning. Mess being that it's not moving. It will move though, that we know, but for now, just so you know where you might get stuck. Survey on on Thika Road, heading out then towards the Pangani underpass. It's moving slowly as you try to get then into the CBD at the overpass at the Globe Cinema. That is also moving slowly. Traffic is everywhere you look this morning. Talk to us if you get stuck or you find an alternate route. Spice FMKE on Twitter, 40127 via text.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
The
Nairobi.
conversation continues right here, the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, and C.T. Muga. This morning, for this hour, we are joined by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Noordin Haji. We are looking at the report that he's presented of the work that the ODPP has done for the last 3 years. C.T.
In the vision, if I were to take an excerpt from this report, there was a vision that was envisioned by this office. And one of the things they wanted to do was to enhance accountability, transparency, and public confidence. Now, what I would like Mr. Haji to perhaps explain to us and explain to our listeners is, how exactly would this be manifest to the public? How would the public understand that accountability is being enhanced? What would they need to see for them to understand that accountability is being enhanced, that transparency is being enhanced, but more importantly, public confidence? What do the public need to see?
Well, one is the submission of this report. Maybe I can ask you, when was the last time a independent commission has submitted a report to be reviewed? You can let me know. But this is one of the way of ensuring that there's accountability. Another way that ODPP has done is to reach out to the public. We've had a lot of public outreach. We have a complaints and complement division. We have a whole department of inspectorate quality and compliance, and it is here that all this falls down and deals with the public. I'm not saying that we are perfect. We are not, but we're striving to be as perfect as possible. I think another way that we have done this is through continuous appraisal of our decisions to the public. So that they understand how we've arrived at certain decisions, especially on these corruption cases, because for us, it is a priority which we feel every individual, every Kenyan needs to understand why we've made a certain decision and how we've arrived at it. We've come up with guidelines like the decision to charge, which is out there, and we've shared it widely, where Kenyans can go and refer and even challenge the prosecutor on how they've reached at a decision, because it is very clear and it is outlined very clearly how one should reach at a certain decision. And it is explained, what right a victim has, what right an accused has, because there's been very many instances where individuals have complained that the decisions we've made were not independent, or they were influenced, or they were malicious. And it is very clear how one arrives, and if an individual in Kenya wants to challenge, then the decision, the guideline on the decision to charge is very clear on the steps that should have been taken. So we have tried as much as possible to open ourselves. People also have the right to information when individuals ask. We have shared very openly, as is required under the Constitution. And I think we have tried our best to enhance that accountability, that transparency, and the openness that the public has, or the right that the public has to even audit us. If you look at the report, we've attached the various audit reports that were done by the Auditor General for the public to look at and evaluate.
I have found this report delightful myself. There's one aspect that actually really interests me and gripped my attention. That is the part where you're talking about the future and you talk about forecasting.
Yes.
Looking at
so this
trends.
Is a very,
yes.
Yes.
Please
it's
go ahead.
Very important. So yeah, it's a very important, forecasting is a very important tool to make sure that we're prepared and to make sure that we formulate policies that are, ahead of their time and, putting measures in place to ensure that Kenyans are safeguarded and that we are prepared to deal with a lot of the new emerging crimes. For example, like cybercrime, cyberbullying, or even things like cryptocurrencies and, how certain individuals, and it's happening today, that certain individuals who are involved in corruption cases have converted some of their money into cryptocurrencies that are hidden. And it's very hard to be able to audit and trace. So we are building that capacity in Kenya to ensure that we are able to then trace this crime.
If
So
I
we
were
are
to
trying
bring
prepare ourselves.
this subject of focus in something simple and mundane, which we're accustomed to, procurement. Because every time all government agencies have budgetary considerations, and it's from these considerations and the process of procurement that follows thereafter that we see a lot of our crimes. How would this particular process of forecasting forestall this and ensure, forget arresting and prosecuting, that it doesn't actually happen, if that is indeed something that can be done?
It's not in our purview, unfortunately. Maybe it is something that they can borrow in terms of using forecasting to be able to see. It's I can't say it's 100% accurate, but you can be able to tell through forecasting that you've budgeted for this amount. This is what, as you rightly put it, this is what we're going to procure, and what are the likely crimes that are going to occur there. But that will have to be done by the different and individual ministries, and then also maybe by the investigators, because we don't investigate, and it is not in our it's not our mandate. We don't have those powers. Ours is to wait for a file that has been investigated and is presented to us, the investigators, and to make a decision whether there is a case or not. But I think these are things that the government, probably you can ask the wider government departments, maybe they're using that and they're doing it.
Actually, why I ask this is because one of the things you also mentioned is that you focus to pursue networking, I assume, with other agencies that complement the work that you do. So then comes my question. How well does this networking work? Is it working well? Does it have pitfalls? Does it have challenges? Because if indeed, for instance, you're working well with the DCI, who we know have investigative powers, or you're working with the Anti-Corruption Commission, then surely an idea such as this one can be bought and can be used to achieve the same ends that you are trying to achieve.
Of course, they definitely also use it. I believe that the best we can do as ODPP is share that information and that data, and we've been doing that where it is necessary. But in terms of, I think you were asking about collaboration and
yes,
coordination and cooperation.
Yes,
that is happening every day, day in, day out. Whenever files are presented, we have teams that sit down and review them jointly. And where a prosecutor feels that more investigations need to be done, we make sure that we present the reasons why and where they should be focused on, and we work together. I've said this many times, differences are likely to occur, but that doesn't mean that the work stops. Interpretations differ, are different from one person to the other, but that doesn't mean the work is told. So like in any relationship, even when you're married, mwezi kubaliana kila siku. But at the end of the day, you're in the same house, you're working together and delivering for Kenyans, and that's what we've been doing.
The president recently encouraged, as you handed a couple of days, encouraged for a speedy wrap-up of some of these cases that are currently on the table. So now bringing in the element of time, which when we talk about public confidence for Kenyans are also, one, it could be baying for blood or asking that these things be wrapped up, whereas an individual has been able to or allegedly steal public funds, for example, but they still seem to enjoy the time to enjoy these funds or to enjoy the proceeds of this alleged theft. So here is an encouragement to wrap these things up quickly. We've seen also that it's 2 years to wrap up some of these cases, at least within that 24-month period. But then again, the element of time keeps playing out here. And every time Kenyans are asking, why is this taking so long? it is the element that continues to play out in these cases, Mr. Haji. And so what, in terms of instilling or renewing public confidence that work is actually being done, the time factor is one that cannot be ignored. How,
Of course,
if a case took 10 years, for example, to get a decision, how then, using the same elements, will it be done in 2 years? Again, to instill that public confidence.
Okay, I've said this severally. We've tried to put measures in place, especially in the last 2 years, as NCAJ, the National Council on Administration of Justice, that is chaired by the Chief Justice. What we've done, in essence, is increase the number of prosecutors that prosecute, corruption cases. Taking into consideration that as ODPP, we deal with all cases, and I've always said this, from stealing chicken, witchcraft, to this complex corruption cases. Yeah, but we've still managed to place priority on corruption. What the CJ has done is increase the number of judges and magistrates in the anti-corruption cases, court. But still, as the way the judiciary is designed, we have diaries, we have dates that you have to put, and then we have over 300 cases that these 16 judges have to listen to. We have talked to the Chief Justice to see if we can increase this maybe to 30 judges, so that we reduce the burden on the judges in listening to the cases, and I think the judiciary is working towards that. But time factor, as you said, is very important, and we've tried as much as possible to push. This year, we had forecasted that we were going to deliver 3 or 4 major cases in terms of conviction, and Waluke was one of it. And if you look at Waluke, we were able to finish within about 1 year and 7 months, less than 2 years. But then COVID came. The courts had to be closed for almost 3 to 4 months. And even when we came in, we had to prioritize cases. We could not have all these cases coming in as usual. And then we had technical problems. Each institution had to work on digitizing their processes. As ODPP, we worked on that. The judiciary worked on that. And that's how they came up with their own e-filing system. And we've come with our Wadilifu system that is linked to the judiciary. There's still small teething problems here and there because it's a new system. We're upgrading them. We are continuously ensuring that they're effective and efficient. Yeah. And this will enhance, and it will also lessen the time, because traditionally what we were required is to present files upon files of data to court and to the accused, and they had to flick through that, and it was not user friendly. And in the COVID period, nobody wanted to handle those files because they didn't know where it was coming from. So in a way, we were forced to modernize our system, and now the courts are comfortable with electronic disclosure, for example, that we're presenting to court. And all this will lessen the time for the courts to be able to deal with them. The judiciary is also modernizing the courts so that the judge is not forced to sit down and always write. He's not even looking at the individuals to look at their demeanor and all that, because that is part of the judgment that should sum up your decision at the end of it. They're coming up with systems that will record this automatically and then lessen the time and allow us to move much faster. It's an important factor, but we are trying to deal with it.
As those improvements are happening, Bana DPP, 2 years ago during the corruption conference, one of the challenges that the Chief Justice, David Maraga, gave to you as the DPP was how you're presenting the cases to court. He was talking, for example, about the NYS cases. One case, very many accused in the same case, and then you're going to have very many lawyers. So it's definitely going to take time to just go through the proceedings of the cases. Have you improved on that, or have you changed your tack?
We have improved on that, but you know, the way the crime in Kenya is when it comes to corruption is different from how, say, the Europeans do their corruption cases. In Europe, they try and reduce the net as much as possible in terms of who they involve in the crime. Because, you know, it's a very shameful thing. Lakini hapa kwetu,
it's communal.
You try and loop in as many people as possible. Your clansmen, unajua huyu mwingine unaona huyu nikikosa kumpatia atanistaki, you know. So that chain is so huge. Where do you break it? And if you break it and leave one person, utaambia uliwacha huyu kwa ajili huyu ni kabila yako ama huyu ni kabila fulani. And then it impacts on the evidence that you want to present in court.
Yeah.
Because then if you're asked, why didn't you charge this individual? We as prosecutors can be accused of favoring, and we must have an excuse why. Either we've entered into a plea bargain, or they've offered the evidence that is irrefutable, and we have to use it. They've entered into some agreement with us. So when you approach these people and they say, no, we don't want to enter into plea bargaining, you tell them, okay, fine. Then the option is we're going to charge you. Think about it. And if you look at NYS, you will see that we released about 16 or 17 of them who entered into plea bargaining agreements because they realized that would be a better option than to, and they were just, watu wa mkono who are asked to, do this, do that, But then now they will be able to go to court and say, yes, we did this, but this big fish is the one who directed us. And then if we're asked by court, we can say, yes, we did not charge because this person gave us the evidence, and this is the agreement that we entered into before court. And that's the reason. So you must understand, and I think this will change over time when Kenyans will understand, I don't want to be part of this. And when an individual will understand, if I want to do corruption, I have to reduce the net, then you will see a difference in terms of how we present cases.
Mr. Haji,
but increasingly Kenyans seem to understand. Okay. And when we are charging, they come up and say, we want to enter into a plea bargaining agreement. And that is happening.
That's wonderful progress. Did I hear you say that now the issue of digital disclosure of evidence is actually being accepted in our courts?
Yes, right. Because of the e-filing system, which is very good for us.
Excellent. Now, alongside that, part of your proposed strategic actions was employing people who are very research-oriented in various disciplines and fields.
Yes.
And you also suggested that you want to collaborate with institutions of higher learning in this. How far has that gone?
Well, in the last 1 year, I think we've already, with the approval of Treasury, employed 15 researchers. We have retained experts in procurement who are working with us at the ODPP. We have reached out to institutions like Strathmore, and we're working with them through the Prosecution Training Institute. We have reached out to lawyers with, for example, international organizations like Lawyers Without Borders, who are helping us. I think University of Loyola from the US is going to undertake research with us. So we've been busy working with a lot of institutions, not only in Kenya, but the world over.
Sanji, do you have to looking at, obviously what is on the table is huge work that has to be done. However, issues of a kink in the system that is supposed to be fighting this corruption at the same time come up. Do you still, we've looked at issues of corruption within the judiciary, corruption within the system itself, which is supposed to be fighting this corruption. So how are you dealing with cases that would come up, and then you have to then deal with the system fighting itself or wanting to eat itself at the same time? How do you deal with that? Because again, if we're looking at public confidence, a lot of Kenyans will say, well, there might be corrupt individuals in there who might be covering up for these individuals at the same time. How do you deal with that?
Well, that's very. It's a very difficult thing, and I must confess that it's something that discourages and impacts on the morale of the prosecutors and even the investigators. And it continuously is happening, even today, even in some of these cases that we are dealing with. Prosecutors, including myself, we have been threatened, we've been coerced, we've been bullied. All manners of things have happened just to ensure that the cases do not proceed well and fail. But we've tried our best to keep on course, despite that. And one of the biggest challenges is, of course, even before you make a decision, sometimes when a prosecutor says this file does not have sufficient evidence or not reach a certain threshold, then accusations are thrown all over that the individual has been compromised. And when you look at the file, you can see very well that it is set up, as you had said when I came in. It has been set up to fail. So as ODPP, we've become very strict with that. And I have become very clear to all investigative authorities that we should not allow files that are weak and do not have evidence. And you can jump up the sky and down. That is our position.
All right.
You don't have the evidence, we are not going to present it in court. You have the evidence, we will present it, and we will prosecute it as it should.
So by the time we are seeing that it's in the public, that there's a charge, for example, by the time your signature is on something to say that we are going to go ahead and charge. So this, without a doubt, is watertight.
Yes, as far as we are concerned. The judiciary is another story. And, they will listen to it. There may be technicalities and all that can make the case fail. But we try and cover ourselves as much as possible in relation to making that decision to charge. And we've been very clear. Whether it is COVID offenses or human rights abuses or, whatever case that we are being presented with. And that's why we have the decision to charge, so that the prosecutor understands what he needs to look for, the public understands what the prosecutor is looking for, and the investigator also understands this is what we will go through before a decision to charge is made.
But on DPP, as we come to the conclusion of this conversation this morning, 3 or so years down the road in office, you have a couple of more years to go if you look at your 8-year tenure. What has been your biggest frustration so far?
Of course, like any other Kenyan, my biggest frustration is the fact that we have not brought, as much convictions as we have or as we desire. I know. And this is one thing that we are very cognizant of as the ODPP. We should not play to the gallery. But once we present a case, we are anxious to ensure that we deliver a conviction. And we are working towards that. And I think you will see more convictions from December, January, moving forward, considering that this COVID pandemic has really had a negative impact on the criminal justice system.
All right. Now, I have to throw this one in because we have governors whom you've taken to court and others who are holding office. They've been barred from accessing office, but they're still discharging the duties of your office. What do you feel about that?
Very frustrated because we go back to the courts and we raise these issues, and it's not very clear how it looks like. It's not very clear how they should discharge the Mombigugi ruling. But we are always out there trying to ensure that they don't interfere with the cases. But it has been very frustrating. We have tried as much as possible all over to ensure that it is enforced as it should be. However, the governors are employing all manners of tricks to ensure that they're still, doing whatever they want to do in office. And sometimes, we have to balance. Do we start babysitting this governor, or do we look for other cases to bring forward and prosecute? So the investigators are really trying their best, but then at the end of it, we are looking for a system whereby we can be able to continuously monitor and ensure that when they step aside, they are not meddling with the offices that they hold.
Asante sana. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Okay, go ahead.
Hopefully the BBI will bring this out very clearly, so that as a governor, because you're both a politician and also holding an executive office, that once you're charged, you step aside, like all other public servants, like permanent secretaries, etc., until the case is concluded. And we hope we will be able to achieve that with these new reviews of the laws.
Well, if we go with the kind of negotiations that they're already coming up with, you may actually get
might be very
exact
difficult.
opposite of that.
Yeah, and the letters that they're writing. So, but Kenyans have to just be firm. At the end of it, it's your vote that will decide that referendum. On that question, we have to be very clear.
All right.
Absolutely.
Asante sana Nurdin Haji, the Director of Public Prosecutions, for speaking to us, and we hope to have another conversation again with you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Time for us to take a break on KTN Home as well at 3 minutes to 8 o'clock. We'll be back shortly.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Spice up your life.
What is of interest is that every time I listen to the DPP, I get the distinct impression that this job is actually very difficult. Not just difficult. It's very difficult.
He's trying to be very modest and calm about it.
Because you're juggling many things, and their pressures, their political pressures, they're just administrative pressures. And then there's the actual crime that you are dealing with.
There's the actual crime that you're dealing with. Within that system that's supposed to be working on a particular crime, there are individuals who are trying to circumvent the whole process because they also have their fingers in the cookie jar as well. So you're dealing with the outsider who you're trying to prosecute. You're dealing with insiders who don't want this process to go through for whatever reason.
And
Can you
you're dealing
imagine?
with power.
And
That is
you're dealing
fighting
with
back.
Yes, and then you're dealing with a culture that has been there for the longest time.
And then with all of this, you have Kenyans who are saying, do this quickly. And then also an executive and comes to you and says at the same time, okay, guys, wrap these things up really quickly. We want to see this happen very fast. Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Not easy at all.
No.
Not easy
Not
at all.
heavy is the crown that wears the head.
No, not in this case.
But you see, the thing is, he's got to do the job. Because he's taken up the job, he's accepted the job, he's got to do the job. And you've got to deliver the job to the best of your ability. And if you get to a point where you feel that you are not being able to discharge your duties for whatever reason, come out to the people and say, you know what, guys, don't pay me a salary anymore. I'm not going to take this job again because I can't do it. Right?
And the reason why I can't do it
is
because of this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And the problems are this. And the individuals who are particularly troublesome
Responsible
are
for this.
so and so and so and so.
Yep. That would be the best thing to do. As long as he's there, he's accepting that he can do the job. And so he's going to do the job. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here because in the next hour, we talk about American politics, geopolitics, the global politics, and the global position of America when it comes to matters that it has been in the forefront of pushing. For example, democracy all over the world. Statements by Secretary of State on African elections in the background of American elections. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice.
up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, we're looking at Magadi Road, then coming down Langata Road. Not looked at this road for a while. Traffic hasn't been really an issue here over the past few days, but today it is moving very slowly as you're trying to head towards the city centre. So if you're then on the southern bypass and trying to connect with Gong Road coming down, you might get stuck there. So Ngong Road looks like an issue this morning, as does Langata Road. So if you're using the bypass, know that that is what lies ahead. But it's not at a bumper-to-bumper situation. It is moving. However, slowly it's moving. All right, so Mombasa Road is still, as we had seen it before, looking a little bit better now. But there's still traffic as you head towards the Nyayo Stadium. Then on Uhuru Highway, as you're trying to get into the CBD or to get through to Westlands, that also is moving slowly now. Operations continue for those who are not wearing masks in public, and so that slows down traffic at some certain points also. Coming off Thika Road, also not too bad at the moment. It doesn't look like a crazy Thursday in terms of traffic. You're stuck somewhere or you think I'm not telling you the real story, let me know, Spice FM KE, or text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, and Malindi, and worldwide through spicefm.co.ke or spicefmke on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We're also live on KTN Home for the next 1 hour until 9 o'clock. So we're talking to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji. He released a report. We've been looking at that report and what it is that they've prepared, what is it that they're saying, how they've done their job, and how far they've gone with this job. And there have been very many comments coming in on social media, seeing the comments on social media on what people think of the DPP's work and the DPP's the delivery of the same in terms of what is it that they think that he's doing.
Okay, so now, the question is, some of the other things that are coming in, how loose were the ends that the EACC were required to tighten? How was the DPP's office then expending when it came to things like the COVID millionaires? Or were there too many other things going on at the same time that those were not taken care of? Munene says, is it a coincidence that you're always aware of impending arrests? Is it something that's put out there? Is it to whip up public emotion when you put out impending arrests in the newspaper, for example? Other questions that come out of this is that, are we clear when it comes to, it's a question of timing. It takes too long for some of these cases whereby individuals had been eating for long, and then to prosecute them also takes much longer.
The issue of length and the process of justice seeking, unfortunately, those processes are never speedy, honestly. But I think what makes for the Kenyan case is just, honestly, we go beyond in that it just seems to take forever. And then some cases just sort of like disappear.
It's because of how they start. They start with a bang. There's this tough worded statement by the DPP who says, this person did this and the other, and they colluded with their son, colluded with their daughter, and this is what they did, and they stole from the public, and we are going to arrest them, and we are not going to let go until they face justice. Next day, next week, they're back out there. They're easy.
Oh yeah, but then there's also there's a spirited arrest and there's
5,
public drama.
6, 7 years, and you're like, what was all that all about?
Why did we waste our emotions?
Yeah. Anyway, let's begin the hour, City Muga, with today's proverb.
Right. If while climbing a tree you insist on going beyond the top, then the earth will be waiting for you.
If while climbing a tree you insist on
Going beyond the top, then there's a very distinct and certain outcome. The earth will be waiting. Yes, the earth will be waiting for you with a thud. Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about American elections. I hope this is not in any way related to the elections in America. Going above the top and the ground is the only one that's waiting for you. Donald Trump is going to court. He's still challenging the vote counting in several counties, right?
And the processes.
And states and processes that, that have happened. On the other hand, Joe Biden is already saying, I'm ready to go. I've removed my jacket. I'm ready to start working. I can't wait for January to come so that I'm inaugurated and I move into the White House and I get down to business. The Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, has said, all preparations are being made for the transition to the second term of President Trump. Someone saying he was saying it in jest, but he's the Secretary of State in the President Trump administration. But he went ahead to say there are cases that, there are challenges that have been raised and we're pursuing those challenges. But at the same time, when the American election was taking place, several elections are taking place in Africa. Ivory Coast, other parts. Tanzania. And, Mike Pompeo released a statement talking about the need for us to observe democracy and the tenets of democracy and people to follow the law, the laid out procedures of an election and ensure that you abide by them and allow international observers to come in and listen to what the people are saying. And at the end of the day, let the will of the people reign. That is what shall hold supreme. As he's talking about that, what's happening in his own backyard. In his own
his backyard, just the bathroom.
Right there.
Yeah.
In his own government. What is happening? So, such like when he tweeted that, actually, when that statement was tweeted by the Department of State, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton tweeted a very nice curry joint. He said, what did she say? It was what irony. She basically just said how ironic this statement sounds, looking at what you're telling other third world countries and looking at what this government is doing in this own country. So the question then emerges, does America have any now? Can it hold a light to anyone and tell them, the tenets and rules of democracy?
Yes, they can actually.
Why?
Simply because those rules that they keep talking about also applies to them. We seem to be reacting from the fact that those rules don't apply because they adhere to them. But we forget one simple fact. Americans are human beings. And what we are seeing is human beings at their very best, not worst. I don't think the president is actually doing anything that, in my opinion, is untoward. He is challenging an election. He has the right to challenge an election.
Right.
He has the right to point out things that he thinks are wrong. The rejoinder of all this has been no evidence. But if a case is in court, I presume at some point evidence will be asked for and will be provided for. He doesn't need to provide evidence to the media. He doesn't need to provide evidence to anybody else. So if we're to go simply by the tenets of democracy as practiced in this great country of America, then I would say that the president is within his rights. He also has rights, like every other citizens, to launch whatever he's launching. He has every right to take issues to court if he was unhappy about some aspects of the processes. He claims to have witnesses who will corroborate his views. Then I will calmly wait to hear what the judges in these cases have to say about his allegations.
The irony here is that many times when a similar thing would happen, where a sitting president in a third world country, in Africa, for instance, would be there saying, no, wait, I cannot hand over the reins of power yet because we still have to look at how this election was conducted and the challenges therein. The statement would come out clearly from the State Department in the United States talking about, the need for people to respect the will of the people, even without regarding that there is a due process in that country to be followed. And maybe the government is there saying, we're going to follow the due process.
You see, you must understand
it's
that...
like, preach water, drink water.
Eric, we are talking about politics and politicians, right? They are given an extraordinary allowance for hypocrisy, okay?
Yeah.
They can say things they don't mean. They can even lie outrightly. Because they're politicians, we don't set a very high standard for them. Now, what we seem to be discussing here is these are standards that it was assumed were only present in third world leaders. And probably the shock and horror is that a president of the leading democratic country in the world is exhibiting traits that were hitherto thought to be merely the province of those who are in third world banana republic type countries. Now, that is where the term embarrassment comes in, because how is it that we who are thought to have been beyond this are now exhibiting the same things that we've been preaching for the longest time that we are beyond and that we will never portray?
Sure. I mean, that's where the shock comes in. That's where the shock and comes in because, I mean, not too long ago, I mean, just as you said, countries on the African continent that went through elections, the call was, recognize if there is a winner, step down and allow democracy to continue. Sanctions had been placed on other countries where leaders were thought to be going against the will of the people and delegitimizing, I get that word, the process of an election, right? And sanctions were placed on them. The same individual in this case, who would have put out that word, now is essentially refusing, regardless of whatever is brought to the table that could be fact. Yes, it is well within his right. It's well within his right to do so. But the optics of it actually don't really look good.
Has he broken any law?
No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't. That's why I said it's the optics that don't look good at this point.
Just like in African countries, nobody breaks the law.
Nobody breaks the law.
Excuse me, I don't understand that. I thought that's what we do frequently.
No, but here, when somebody is challenging the results of an election, have they broken the law by challenging the results? Have they broken the law by saying that they want to go to the courts to have the result challenged? No, they've not broken the law.
Anyway,
but why is the sentiment coming out?
As we continue the conversation, let's bring in experts and people who are scholars on these matters. Professor Paul Tiambe-Zeleza is the Vice Chancellor and a Professor of Humanities and Social Sciences at the USIU Africa. And we also have Professor Cassandra Vini, who is the Chair in the Department of International Relations at USIU Africa. Good morning, Professors.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's good to have you on the show. I'm going to just start off with you, Professor Tiambe. The statements and the activities that we've seen in America, not just during this election, but in the last 4 years. In the last 4 years, we've seen people who voted for Donald Trump. You've seen people, again, who have voted for Donald Trump again, maybe even new people who voted for Donald Trump. And on the other side, the opposition is describing Donald Trump as, this tyrannical leader, this person who doesn't deserve to be in office, this person who's behaving as if he is not even fit to be a human being and all. And this is a kind of sentiment, and that's what we were discussing in our intro. This is a kind of sentiment that's, passed on several African leaders. Said that this person has actually not even just won an election, but he's forced his way into office. He does not even deserve to be considered a prefect in a schoolyard. What do you say to that?
I think it is important to understand that currently, of course, and for some time, the United States has been a very polarized society, politically and otherwise. And with regards to Mr. Trump, you will note that in 2016, he won the electoral college, but he did not win the popular vote. So what that points to is that the United States has some inherent flaws in terms of its democratic system. One is the fact that the president is not directly elected by the people. Rather, the electoral college determines who become president. So you can have a leader like Senator Clinton in 2016 who won the popular vote by almost 3 million and lost the election. And then you also remember in 2000, President George Bush, became the president, but he actually lost the popular vote to Vice President Al Gore by about 500,000 votes. The difference in terms of the electoral vote came from Florida, and the difference was 537 votes. So the electoral system in the United States is one in which, the way we understand democracy, as somebody who has won the popular vote does not apply. there are other features of U.S. democracy that are problematic. The other one being, of course, voter suppression, in which there are determined efforts to prevent some citizens, particularly minorities, African Americans and others, from voting. There is also the problem of gerrymandering, in which the electoral districts are defined by the political parties rather than by a neutral body. And then, of course, there is finally the politicization of the judiciary. And this is how Mr. Bush won in 2000. The Supreme Court, determined that the voting should stop. So what you have in the U.S., yes, on paper it's a democracy. In reality, there are a lot of deficits to that democratic system, certainly in comparison to other Western democracies in Europe, Canada, Australia, and the emerging democracies in Africa.
If I were to go by just the example you've given of the Bush and Al Gore election, there are those who explain that their process of determining the viability of those votes took something like 38 days. And still there were cases where they couldn't determine whether those things could actually be considered as legitimate votes or not. And it's because of that that the Supreme Court, again, the Supreme Court decision was that you stop the counting. Now, if we were to go by the fact that it had to go to the Supreme Court for the decision to be made, are we then saying that the system is flawed, or are we then saying that the backup system that's supposed to arbitrate is flawed?
I think, there is a big difference between 2000 and 2020. One of the big differences is obviously the fact that the claims by the Trump team is that these, the flaws are in the states that, Mr. Biden has won, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and so on. The flaws are not in the states where they have won. And this is across the whole country in that sense. So it is, they're really trying to make an argument which doesn't hold water. To begin with, a lot of, the electoral system in the United States, again, part of its complexity is that this is done at the state level. And, while it might happen in one particular state, in the case of 2000, and even for the 2000, it was in one particular area. This, the claim that the entire electoral system is, problematic in terms of rigging and so on is simply untenable. Mr. Trump, of course, is trying his best to, flog a horse that is already dead in terms of his own electoral chances. And there is no possibility whatsoever that he can win that case. The New York Times just published yesterday, for example, a report that, they looked at every state in the country, and there is simply no evidence of electoral fraud, as Mr. Trump is claiming.
If we can go to you, Professor Vinay, and asking ourselves now where things stand and the several court cases that are being filed from yesterday in the United States to the day before, even as early as Monday. What does this mean then for the system? For an election where votes are still being counted at the moment in different states. I believe Arizona just finished. Pennsylvania is still on there. Georgia, an entire new count then has been ordered. What does this mean for the legitimacy of this particular election or any other that may come in the future? What does this mean looking at the United States from your point of view?
Thank you. I think as we know that, as the previous comment said, before Professor Zalaza, that the president has every right to go to court. If these court cases come to fruition and these votes are still being counted, to me it's a legal aspect of it, that he has gone to court, that these votes, he wants them to continue to be counted. But as Professor Zalaza said, there really, to this date, doesn't seem to be any evidence that the votes were counted in a fraudulent manner, that even if there's a recount, that it will totally change the outcome of the election. So what this means is that it's a legal process that can take place, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will change anything.
But it doesn't have to change anything. The fact is that he's allowed to go through the process, and the fact is he's allowed then to present what he's supposed to be presenting. And I think the issue and the question that CT had even asked earlier is this showing weakness in the system, or is it showing that the system actually does work and it should then be allowed to work? There's an electoral process, there's a voting system, there's accounting, there's a challenge, and there's a body that is mandated to be the one that mediates whenever there's a dispute. Is that not showing that there's actually a proper system that's working?
I think he has every right to go through the process. It just seems to me that a lot of Americans, enough of them, not necessarily a lot, enough of them did not vote for him. As Professor Zaleza said, Hillary Clinton received the popular vote, but she was not elected.
Yep.
He did not receive to date the popular vote. So after 4 years of acrimony and hostility and driving the country into the ground, to me, it's beyond a legal thing. It's for the greater good. It ought to be, what can we do to bring the country back together? What can we do to stop all of this acrimony and hostility? And again, it speaks volumes about the president as a person, as a leader, or not being able to be a leader. That he's just kicking the can down the road, if you will. He has lost, as far as everybody can say and see, but yet he still wants to drag this out through the legal process.
I think, Professor, what you're saying is, a view that you hold and a view that many others hold, but there are also very many others who also hold the other view, that he hasn't lost, or he hasn't lost fairly. The Trump campaign, for example, is claiming, and I've just seen an item on Fox News, that they've even come up with a list of supposed dead people who are said to have participated in this vote.
Well, as you said, if it goes, or somebody said, if it goes through the court process, then that evidence will be brought forward. So if he's insisting on letting it be decided by the court, then that evidence will be in the court. And maybe people are wrong. Maybe there has been some evidence of fraud. But as we sit here now, there hasn't been any evidence. And as Professor Zaleza said, those same people who will say there's fraud in this election or fraud in previous elections will still come back and say there's no such thing as voter suppression. There's no such thing as shutting down ballot boxes in Harris County, which is a huge county in Texas. So what if you don't let people who've already served their sentences vote? So what if you don't let ex-felons vote? That's okay. So it's a situation of the Republicans in particular calling out certain things, but not calling out certain things when it doesn't suit their interest.
I mean, I begin to get the impression that here, the view that seems to be gaining currency is that President Trump is actually not even fighting the Democratic Party, he's fighting the system. Because the system, as from what I hear, is that it's a system that is known to work, has worked, and the flaws that it may have are minimum to the point where even when they're evidence, they don't really change any outcome. So, if indeed the president is fighting the system, do you really think that he has a right to fight the system?
Go ahead, Professor Zaleza.
I was going to say that what Mr. Trump is doing is trying to undermine Americans' faith in the electoral system because he has lost. He did not complain when he won by a whisker in 2016. This is the attitude of a sore loser, and he's doing a very dangerous thing for American democracy with all its limits. And in terms of the people, there was a recent poll which indicates 80% of Americans are like, you know what, this is over. You have lost the elections. Please just accept and let's move on. There's no indication that if all these cases come to court, there will be any substantial changes in the electoral outcome. So what he's doing is simply sour grapes by somebody who cannot stand losing. For him, as you know, one of his most epithets is to call somebody a loser. And the idea that he could have lost the election. The gap between him and Mr. Biden is now increasing as more votes are counted.
Yeah.
It's now about 5 million. And there is no way that would change. So what we are seeing here is not somebody who is trying to promote the integrity of the electoral system in the United States. Instead, he's trying to introduce doubt, which he has been doing all along in the interest of his supporters who are determined not to accept a Democrat, in this case, of course, Mr. Biden, being the next president.
Let's take a break at this point. We're speaking with Professor Paul Zeleza. He's the Vice Chancellor at USIU Africa. And Professor Cassandra Vini, who is also from USIU Africa. She's the chair of the Department of International Relations. Talking about America and from what we've seen, the 4 years of President Donald Trump and now this election. Has the U.S. lost its moral authority? Has the U.S. lost its moral authority under Donald Trump?
Well done.
How many hours are those? Has the U.S. lost its moral authority under Trump? That's what I meant to say. Time for us to take a break on KTN Home on Spice FM, 26 minutes after 8. We'll be back shortly.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
COVID-19 imeimpact lives za wase wengi sana. Watu wame lose jobs, kutoka mama mboga, business owner next door, neighbor amefungiwa hao na landlord. Pesa imekuwa mteja, haipatikani hata ya kuweka chakula kwenye meza. Ili kujenga jirani, unaweza toa suu moja, 100 bob only, na hii inaweza badilisha maisha wa Kenya wengi sana. Na usisahau kuungana na sisi for the Jenga Jirani Charity Festival 7th and 8th of November on KTN Home, na pia itakuwa online on www.jengajirani.org. See you then, ili tujenge jirani and show some love.
Next week on The Great Kenyan Bake Off.
Nayo, hapa na hapa.
It's the first of 2 dessert weeks, and Heat 1 are about to face an interesting twist in the technical that will really test their taste buds.
It's going to be fun.
Don't miss the fun as the bakers put their best construction skills on display, instincts, to create a very colorful showstopper.
I'm so tired.
The Great Kenyan Bake Off, brought to you by Unga Limited, inspiring a nation to bake.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
In the face of COVID-19, life has been adversely affected, with nearly all schools in Kenya lacking basic hand-washing facilities, affecting more than 19 million children. Together with Davis and Shatleaf and True Black, we, the Standard Group, have partnered to collectively unite other corporates and individuals to join the initiative towards setting up basic sanitation facilities around the country. For more information, send an SMS to the short code 40616 or email standwithkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Time to come together for tomorrow. It's our future. A partnership by Davis and
Still
Shatleaf
mostly
and
cloudy in
True Black.
Nairobi. Chance of rain still heavy. Highs of 24 and lows of 17. Cloudy conditions in Nakuru at 17. Highs of 24 today. Highs of 23 in Nyeri. 17 degrees and partly sunny at the moment. It's mostly cloudy in Eldoret at 11. Highs of 22. Mostly sunny in Kisumu. 27 the high and lows of 18. Sunny conditions in Kakamega as well, with highs of 27 and lows of 14. On the other side of things, it's raining in Mombasa. 26. Highs of 29. Mostly sunny conditions in Malindi, 26 the high and lows of 16 today. It's mostly sunny in Kampala at 19. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam experiencing rain showers this morning, still coming down, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Mostly cloudy conditions in Johannesburg at 14, highs of 22. And in Lagos, it's mostly cloudy at 25. That will be the low, highs of 31. And in Kinshasa, it's mostly cloudy, highs of 34 and lows of 24.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Okay, still riding traffic hour this morning. Mombasa Road clogged up, moving very slowly. It'll open up as you get then towards the expressway construction that's really heavy then now around Bellevue, but then closes up again as you go towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. It's still pretty full, guys. And then getting into the CBD from Uhuru Highway, that's already jam-packed. Aerodrome Road now behind Nyeri Stadium, that's moving, but a little bit slow. That's another option if you're not one for sitting in traffic. Coming off of Thika Road, entering into the CBD is not looking too bad either. Industrial area and Jogo Road as you head to the City Stadium roundabout, moving slowly, getting into the CBD not too long from now, so your wait has not been in vain. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. If you get stuck somewhere, let us know, and also text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM. Nairobi
continues right here on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and online on www.spicefm.co.ke. In the room is Eric Latif Nduoko, CT Muga. Joining us on the line is Professor Paul Zeleza. He's the Vice Chancellor at USIU Africa. He's also Professor of Humanities and Social Sciences. And Professor Cassandra Vini, who is the Chair of the Department of International Relations at USIU Africa. Has the US lost its moral authority under Trump? 2016. Donald Trump wins the election through the electoral college votes, does not win the election through the popular vote, and we see Democrats pouring out in the streets, and there were demonstrations for a couple of weeks. Now it's the shoe is on the other foot. Donald Trump, still doesn't appear to have won the popular vote and does not appear to have won the college votes, but he's contesting that election and the process of the election. We are seeing some Democrats and Republicans out on the streets. In fact, Republicans are said to be, calling out for a 1 million-man march on Washington, D.C. When this happens in Africa, what is discussed about this? That, you're out there, you're protesting, somebody should be conceding defeat and calling their supporters to order and telling their supporters to go back home and just saying, I've accepted, so let me also now talk to my supporters. It's the same thing that's happening in the States.
Yeah,
what does that mean?
on this side of the water is a totally different narrative than that is coined when such things happen. So and I want to ask that direct question. I think both of you, Professor Vini and Professor Zeleza, has the US lost its moral authority to be able to point fingers at the rest of the world based on what is happening there at the moment? Has it lost its moral authority?
I can start.
Yes.
I think what we're asking, not necessarily the moral authority in terms of something that's personal. I would say the political moral authority. Now, we can just talk about Trump. We can isolate Trump. We can isolate what's happening now. And if we do that, we miss out on a big picture. In order for us to understand what is happening in the United States within the context of the United States calling people out or having any type of authority to pull somebody else's coattail to tell them that they're not doing something correctly politically, we need to understand why we even think that the United States has a moral authority. because it should not have had one from the beginning. If you look at when the United States became a country, it had the opportunity right then and there in 1789 to say, we're going to start this country with moral authority. We're going to have liberty. We're going to have justice. We're going to have democracy. We're going to carry out all of those things that Thomas Jefferson wrote about in the Declaration of Independence. But they didn't do that then. They firmly codified slavery into law and put people of African descent into the Constitution as 3/5 of a person. That should have been a red flag, that there will not be any moral authority. And after the Civil War, after 1865, when the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution that freed these 4 million people who were enslaved, just to have slavery itself, you need to ask yourself, what leg of moral authority did the United States ever have to stand on? So you had this window of opportunity after 1865, this window of opportunity called Reconstruction, and you passed these Reconstruction Amendments. And you need to ask yourself, not you personally, but we need to ask ourselves, what kind of moral authority can a country have when it has to add amendments onto the Constitution to free people, to give them citizenship, to give them voting rights? Red flags should have been swirling around all over. So again, Reconstruction was that moment of time when these things that were a part of the Constitution should have been carried out. And then maybe, starting from that point onward, the United States could have begun to have some type of moral authority. Reconstruction ended, and you have this infamous Supreme Court case called Plessy versus Ferguson that again codified into law segregation. And the national government did what it could to try to get rid of domestic terrorism, but it was just rampant. So again, starting from the beginning, there was no moral authority. So fast forward to the year 2020, you still don't have the moral authority. The United States has gone around telling people they should do this, telling people should do that. But when you unpeel that onion, you understand that it should have never had any moral authority. And people throughout the globe gave it moral authority because perhaps they didn't quite understand the political, racial history of that country.
So then we can say that I think before I ask my next question, Professor Zeleza, you can give your input on this. Has the U.S. lost its moral authority, or do you agree with Professor Vini?
I agree with Professor Vini that the United States, from the very beginning, has never had the kind of moral authority that it has been given and that it has advertised for itself in terms of the right of people to exercise their liberties, to exercise their rights as citizens, as voters. As we all know, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, did not come until 1964 and 1965. And even with that, the attempts to prevent people of African descent and other minorities from exercising their full political and economic rights, and of course women, has been rampant. And the unfortunate thing is that because it's a superpower, militarily and economically, people have invested that country with a moral authority that it does not have and it has never had. And Trump, in a very fundamental way, is not an exception in American history. Trump is really simply brought to light the deformities and the dysfunctions of American politics, of American society. He spoke loudly what already happens in that society in terms of the racism, in terms of the misogyny, and so on and so forth. So what he has done is simply, of course, accelerate the demise of Pax Americana and tarnish American democracy in a way that people who are outside the country, perhaps did not fully understand. He has brought all that to light.
And go ahead, Prof.
Okay, can I add this? I think oftentimes we in the United States and outside of the United States, when there is a presidential election, we put all the emphasis on the presidential election. That is an important election. There's no doubt about it. However, the elections at the state level for the Senate, and as Professor Zeleza pointed out, gerrymandering, for the House, not the Senate, but the House,
Yep.
and those state legislative districts. Those things need to be brought about as well. The national election, in terms of the president, that is important. However, there are all kinds of issues that are decided at the state and local level that will affect you day to day that are just as important. And when you leave people out of those decisions, then you really don't have a democracy. The other point I want to make is that oftentimes, absolutely, African Americans get the bulk of the media exposure. We know about them. We know their history and whatnot. However, to be fair, we need to bring in the indigenous people to that country.
Yep.
The men of that community were not given citizenship until after World War I, and it wasn't all of them. Those were only the men who participated in World War I. So again, let me emphasize, if you have to add amendments to the Constitution, if you have to have congressional acts, such as the Indian Citizenship Act, and as Professor Zaleza pointed out, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and in addition to that, you had a number of court cases. To give people the right to vote, that should make anybody question. And 1965 wasn't that long ago. And in addition to that, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is up to be looked at every 10 years. That should give you reason to pause. First off, you shouldn't have one, and it shouldn't be any discussion about extending it or renewing it every 10 years.
If I were to look and if I were to surmise and understand the comments that I've heard being made about President Trump, and if I were to look at the history that you've outlined so very clearly, it means that these are issues that, it's not that they've never simply gone away. People have learned to cope with them. There have been changes. There have been positive moves. But until Trump, you haven't had a president who's been able to bring out all these issues right out into the open for everyone to see with clarity.
Right.
So the complaint about Trump should be a praise for Trump, because this is a man who has put aside hypocrisy and actually walked around stark naked for everyone to see exactly who he is.
And who he represents.
I think he has exposed. It does not mean that we cannot critique Trump himself for his lies, for the scandals, and the ways in which he has undermined, the limited democracy in that country. But he's definitely exposed, and some of the underbelly of the United States, and exposed the people of the country as well as the rest of the world. Make them lose their naivety about the United States, and that false sense of innocence, of perfection, that this is the model that we should all follow. That has become quite evident that it's not. So for that, obviously, the Trump administration has historically been useful in exposing that. It doesn't mean that what they have been doing for the last 4 years has promoted the interest of the majority of that country's citizens.
But Professor Zaleza, it doesn't appear.
Please go ahead.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
I think that Professor Zaleza is absolutely positively correct. However, let me add to that. For those of us, and I'm a part of the African American community, so for those of us who have personally and professionally and historically experienced that, we're not surprised. What we find very interesting, and we're not even surprised by what I'm about to say, but what we find very interesting is that how other people seem not to know. They seem to be unaware. And so if you're on the receiving end of racism and discrimination, you're sitting there looking at yourself, why is it that I understand it and you're doing it to me, but you, for some reason, don't understand it?
How would you explain? Is this ignorance real or is it feigned?
I'm sorry.
I'm asking the question that the ignorance that people have. I mean, someone is practicing discrimination, and yet at the same time, they don't seem to understand that they're actually being discriminatory. Is this something that people put on? Is this something that they really are ignorant about these facts?
I think people understand what they're doing. Certainly, in the United States, we have seen through the George Floyd movement that people understand that there is systemic racism, that white supremacy is a powerful force in that country. People understand that. And of course, the levels of understanding vary from community to community. If you are at the receiving end, as Professor Vini said, of racism, of course, it's not just a question of understanding it, you experience it daily. And just like President Kaunda used to say in the days of apartheid, you did not need a Russian, or, as the, leaders of South Africa at that time used to say, that the people in South Africa, are being influenced by the Russians, the communists, in order to oppose this nice system called apartheid. He used to say the ordinary man and woman and a black child in South Africa understood because they experienced it. Now, the other people may be in denial. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, or that they even understand that they are beneficiaries of that system. Where the problem comes is, I think, internationally, and there are all sorts of reasons. The Western world has a vested interest in promoting a certain image of the West in the world, including the United States, in which they are the paragons, they are the models of democracy, they are the models of everything that has happened that is good for humanity. And then the rest of us, unfortunately, through the media, through our educational systems, we perpetuate those ideas, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly, because we valorize whiteness, we valorize colonialism, we valorize imperialism insofar as we put them on the pedestal of what it is to be developed, what it is to have reached a level of civilization. So there is a willfulness, but there is also a deep ignorance in the process in which all of us are caught up in that system in which the United States becomes a model. And of course, the US is a superpower. And anybody who is very strong, you think they must be also good. It doesn't follow.
So then, has the United States been following this democratic model, Professor Vini, from all the things that you've said, that it shouldn't come as a surprise that that people are going through this because people have lived the experience, right? So you actually shouldn't be surprised. So is the United States democratic? Is it a democratic country?
In many ways it is, and in many ways it is not, because the way the president is elected, again, I'm not going to go into any type of long, drawn-out political lesson, but the very reason that the president is elected by the Electoral College and not by direct vote is something that is questionable. For me, as a political scientist, it means that from the beginning, the highest office that it has become over time, and as Professor Zaleza points out, what we want the world to think, that the United States is the biggest democracy besides India, the president is the leader of the democratic world. Again, like Professor Zaleza says, if the world wants to believe that, fine, but let's go back a little bit. The president of the United States from the beginning, in terms of quote-unquote the founding fathers, was not going to be elected by popular vote, was not going to be elected by the people, or else why would you have this convoluted system called the Electoral College? And at the time that the United States became the United States in 1789, only those people who could vote were white men who owned property. And of course, that property also could be slaves. So from the very beginning, it was not a democracy. It was never meant to be a democracy within the context of all people who were citizens or who met basic voting criteria would be able to vote. And I always tell my students this should give you a clue as well. The Constitution went into effect in 1789. The first Congress met in 1790. The first piece of legislation passed by that Congress was the Naturalization Act, the 1790 Naturalization Act, that said only those people would become citizens through naturalization. Only those people who could do that had to be white. So from the very beginning, power, political power, economic power was going to be conferred upon white men with property, not even indentured servants, not even poor white people, not even white women. So the writing is on the wall that it was never meant to be a democracy. I would make the argument that it has made steps, there's no doubt about it. And it probably to this day is on the road to achieving full democracy, but there is no way I would say that the United States is a democracy. It has too many flaws. It has too many systemic and institutional and structural ways by which it continues to not allow people to participate.
So
and
if
again,
it isn't a democracy, what would you call it?
I think it's a dominant democratic system.
Okay.
And maybe just to add another thing on that one, when you look at the other level of government, which is the Senate, every state has, of course, 2 senators, and there are, as you know, 50 states. What that does is that take a state like Wyoming, which has about 579,000 residents. Wyoming has as much weight as California, which has 39 million people. So by definition, the Senate is actually dominated by a minority of American citizens, insofar as it's based on the formula of the representation by the states. And the states are not equal in terms of population. And it's the Senate that is going to be the one making approvals for the Supreme Court and so on, which then will sit in judgment. So the entire structure has very deep flaws that sort of mitigate against the realization of democracy.
Is that necessarily a flaw, Professor, or is it just a way of ensuring that there is equity and distribution of influence across the states?
Well,
if you have for example, in this country for the first 5 years or 4 years of this administration, the buzzword in the country was tyranny of numbers, and the thinking is that you get a certain block of tribal voters, and you combine it with another certain block of tribal voters, and you're able to carry the presidency. That then does not sound like it's representative, does it? But now if you look at what you're talking about, this system in the states, a small state and a big state are all American. And therefore, they all deserve representation.
Yeah. Of course, representation can be seen in terms of territory. Representation can also be seen in terms of population. But if it's purely based on territory, like the Senate is, then, of course, you're going to increasingly disenfranchise people in certain areas. In a comparison between, Wyoming with its 579 and 39 million is, blatantly unequal. It means that, and that's why you have this notion of the battleground states.
Yeah.
You never hear about California or New York being battleground states because those are given that they will go to the Democrats. What you then end up is battling over very few states, which also means that, in fact, the election is not decided nationally in that sense. It's decided by these areas which tend to be limited in terms of numbers. And many of those states happen to be rural, happen to be predominantly white. So you are reinforcing the racial division in that country in terms of representation. You are also reinforcing the disenfranchisement, as it were, in terms of proportionality of people who happen to be urban and in some cases suburban.
Professor, would you then say that this American system is pre-rigged?
Yes, it is. It is. Yes, it's baked into the system. As Professor Vini said, the system was not meant to be a democracy the way we understand democracy. And the tragedy is that the American economy, over the last 250 years, has grown to become, obviously, what we know it to do today. The political system has not grown to match not only the economic growth, but also the changes in that society, demographically, politically, and otherwise. So you have a very modern economy. In fact, the world's richest country. Grafted on top of it is a very antediluvian political system. And that's why you are seeing all these dysfunctions that the Trump presidency has brought out into the open.
Professor, thank you very much for speaking to us. Professor Paul Zeleza is the Vice Chancellor at the USIU. He's also Professor of Humanities and Social Sciences. And Professor Cassandra Vini is also Chair of the Department of International Relations at the USIU. Asanteni sana for speaking to us, and we wish you a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Asante. And also it's time for us to say thank you to our audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since 7 o'clock. It's now 5 minutes to 9. Join us again tomorrow morning, 7 to 9. But this conversation happens every weekday morning on Spice FM. If you're in Nyeri, you can tune in 90.9. Malindi is 97.7. 96.7 in Eldoret, 96.0 in Nakuru, Kisumu 102.5, 87.9 in Mombasa, and 94.4 in Nairobi.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
Okay, so it's not a democracy as it should be. It's not really the paragon of democracy, but the West have come together and they want to put themselves out to the world as the ones who are really the better countries in the world. Looking at the reaction after the supposed win by Joe Biden, the projections that Joe Biden has won the election, and the congratulatory messages that have come from world leaders, especially those from the West, in saying, now we are back on track. Now we are going to normalize relations with America. Now we are going to have America occupying its rightful place in the community of nations. Is it that the world then already looks at it and doesn't want to ask the questions that have been asked?
Which world are we speaking of?
The West. Even the rest of the world, actually. If you look at even the presidents from Africa and the presidents from Asia who have sent congratulatory messages, a majority of the leaders that have spoken have spent sending congratulatory messages and saying, phew, good riddance and welcome back, Joe Biden.
It's never been a calling out. It hasn't. You're right. It's been
So
congratulations.
it's not like they're saying, all right, okay, but for those 4 years, we've actually seen your underbelly, America, and let's have this conversation. You guys cannot,
You can't
stand
lord
up to
this
us
thing
and tell
over
us
us anymore.
and tell us how to run our affairs. It's like we just want to forget that and want to go back to where we were, resetting our relations to 6 years ago.
If America wasn't as powerful economically as it is, if America has not led in as many fields as it has led, if it has been a leader in almost every sphere of life, yes, this hypocrisy we speak of would be called out. It won't be called out because people stand to benefit.
Yeah, what doesn't help is that even with this warped democracy, warped government as it would be, you still have them excelling in so many areas on the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Whether it's in innovation and creation and development assistance to the rest of the world. This is the person that you've been paying in terms of the piper all this time, right? How easy do you think it would be essentially to then say, hold on a minute?
And then,
you're going in the wrong direction.
There'll be very many people who've come across Americans who don't represent this warped view that Trump has presented. So it isn't just one view. They will say, no. We've met many Americans
And it's different.
who are completely not this. And we've seen evidence of people who've been fighting this corrupt system who are themselves white. If we are talking from Abraham Lincoln.
It's true.
Onwards.
We are talking about a country that is leading and trailblazing in all other parts of the world. But it's a country where at this point we're actually now standing up and saying, oh, congratulations, the first female vice president of this democracy that's over 200 years old. It's at the same time that we're talking about this. It's at the same time that we are going out into the streets supporting the Black Lives Matter movement because it has happened again and again and again in America. It's the same America. Joe Biden wins, and among the first things that he's talking about is, COVID and setting up the COVID committee. He's talking about going back into the Iran and the climate change treaties, the issue of the race and...
Because we're talking about America, we think we're talking about the same thing. It's America, but there are many issues that relate to this one America.
Yep.
Yes. And that is what perhaps should be a subject of further discussion. And also, Americans are human beings, and so are the rest of the world. This is not hypocrisy that is governed or that is nestled only in the US of A. It's a human trait. So you would expect world leaders to also have similar traits, and all they're doing He's doing what world leaders do all the time. Even with the election next door, Tanzanians are kicking a fuss, opposition leaders are kicking a fuss, but the president is being congratulated left, right, and
Regionally,
center.
yep.
Yes. So
It's a global thing.
it is a human thing.
All right. Keep it right here because we have more conversations in the next hour. Remember, we are helping you to get your business online, and we'll be talking about that. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, on Mombasa Road, still traffic here and there. From the SGR, still around that area, Gateway Mall, it's a bit clogged, guys. And then as you get towards the JKIA turnoff, there's still some traffic there. Still some traffic, bumper-to-bumper situation on Jogo Road as you're trying to get into the CBD. Thika Road is not looking too bad. Getting in will not be a problem today, at least at this point. Coming out of traffic around Thika Road. Kiambu Road is a mess as usual. Trying to then get on Thika Road. Langata Road, that has cleared up, not much of an issue. You're going in to the CBD, not a problem there, as well as on Gong Road. So it's looking pretty good at this time. We'll take a look in a half hour or so and see how things may have changed. Inbound on Mombasa Road, we do have a little bit of traffic there. Also, meandering the construction. Spice FMKE on Twitter, 40127 on text. Let us know.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
9. Let's begin the hour with today's Proverb City.
If while climbing a tree you insist on going beyond the top, then the earth will be waiting for you.
Jesus. With the sound of a thud.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it'll be having there the welcoming party.
Mm-hmm.
Kuja chini.
As they say, you will feel it on your body.
Mm-hmm. You will know you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a business conversation at this hour for the next about 20 minutes or so. We have partnered with Google to help you get your business more visibility online, to help you pivot. We've got to use that word. In these COVID times, pivot your business and see how else you can reach out to your customers, grow your business, expand your business opportunities. Yesterday, the Google expert that we've been speaking to, Rosemary Momanyo-Pio, she's the SME lead for East Africa at Google, told us about the marketing kit and the market finder. The marketing kit is this tool that helps you to create, and you can even go ahead and do some simple graphic designs, and you want to create messages that you can then share even on social media about your business. And the market finder is this one that tells you, so this is a business that you're running. You sell, what do you sell?
Juice.
Juice. So you're selling juice, and this is juice ya ukwaju. So if you're selling tamarind juice, like Mohammed in Mwakijembe, if you're selling tamarind juice and you'd like people to know about it and its benefits in building and boosting your immunity, so if you go to Market Finder, it'll actually show you the other areas of the world where there's great demand for tamarind juice. And it can also then, you go in there and it tells you how you can access those markets, who you can use as logistics companies. Maybe it can also link you up with the official regulations and what you need to do to be able to sell your juice outside the country. Okay? So this is Market Finder. But Rosemary promised that she's going to now take us a little bit into more greater detail about this. Rosemary, hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am very well. And how about you all?
Good, thank you.
We are fine.
We are all very fine, thank you.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Great.
So, as we also encourage people who have any questions on everything that we've learned so far, you can SMS any of those questions. 40127 is our SMS number, or post the questions on Spice FM KE Twitter or Facebook. Rosemary, teach us about the marketing kit and market finder.
Yes. So I will do another demo again for you today. So we're going to begin by saying, how do we get to this landing page? So the first step is, as an SME, you go to Google and then type in g.co/Grow Africa, and you'll see the link to Grow Google, and you'll click on it. Or you can just type in Rise Up Google, and you'll come to this web page. Again, just to highlight to you, the page was developed with the insights around supporting businesses, individuals, and those who are in the classroom, so both teachers and students. But today we'll focus on the business section, and we want to figure out how we can help SMEs get customers. So we click on the Get Customers link. And then we discussed yesterday marketing kit, a great summary, Eric, thank you for that. And we did a high-level top line on Market Finder. So today we're going to go deeper into Market Finder. So I click on, Market Finder. If I could just click on the right one. Here we go. And then the interesting thing about Market Finder is you just need to have a website. A website or a business profile will work. So in this example, what I'm going to do is to just, take you through how to use it. So I will go and use the example of Wangare. So you can see here is her one-page website, right? But we discussed already with her a few weeks ago. I'll just click on the URL for her website. I'll come back to Market Finder, and I'll type in her website here. And then what you'll see then is the option to agree to the terms. So I'll agree to the terms. But before I do that, just to highlight again why this tool is important to a business owner, they're able then to get tailored ideas on and insights. It's really a tool to empower the SME with information that they would require to help them understand where else there's potential for their products in other markets other than where they currently are. So they'll get recommendations on those markets and high-level insights about those markets. They'll also be able to learn how to adapt. I like your word this morning, Eric, of pivot. So they're able to pivot or adapt themselves to these new markets by what they get from the insights that they'll glean from this tool. And then they'll also be able then to reach the right audience with the various tools that will be highlighted on this product. So, for example, if I want to export my products to the US or to Germany or to the UK, I will now know what tools are available to me to, one, of course, move from point A to point B, but then also how then do I create awareness to the people who are already searching for those products that I'm currently selling in my market. So I'll be able to know exactly how big the opportunity is in those markets, and then what tools to use to be able to reach those new markets.
Now, when
those
you
are
say,
the three things that...
Please go ahead, Rosemary. I apologize for interrupting you. Yes, you're saying?
No, go ahead, Siti. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
It looks like we're both sorry here. So, okay. Let
the first one who was sorry go ahead.
I was sorry first, so you continue.
So I will continue. Thank you for your permission, Siti. I'll hit continue. So I've put in here the website for, in this case, my example, which is Wangare's company. But you can also put your business profile. Whatever your landing page is that you're currently using today, you just put that in there, agree to the terms, and then you click continue. Okay. So when I click continue, it does its own thing, and it goes through my website to say, okay, I see, Wangare, you currently are selling these products that fall in these two categories, hygiene and toiletries, because that's what she sells. She sells soap. Mm-hmm. She also, it's proposing to me also arts and culture. I'm thinking, that's not really what I am, so I'll X this one out. It's proposing liquid soaps. I'll say, yeah, I also have liquid soaps, but I could also add new categories. So I click on the add category button here, and I can go through and see what other category options are available to me that I feel were missed by the initial scan done by the tool. So I'll go through and say, okay, fine, I'm not in vehicles, I'm not in real estate. I might be in beauty and personal care. Let me select that one and see what options I get from it. So it's skincare, yes, I'm in skincare, so I'll add skincare. I'm not in tanning, I'm not in spa, but I'm in anti-aging. Okay, I'll add that one. And then nail care, lip care, not really, makeup, not really, hair care. So what I'll do is I'll just add the new ones and I'll confirm the categories.
Okay.
So you see in this case, you have the option to go through what else is available that was probably missed by the initial scan, add the categories, and then you confirm.
Okay.
So now I have 5 categories here. Can I just stop and see if there are any questions before I proceed?
Yes. You mentioned tools, okay, that will enable this entrepreneur to actually reach the wider market for the product that they have. What do these tools involve? What are they? I mean, to what extent, how far will you go with these tools?
Yes. So the goal here is that you learn about all those tools in this journey, but I'll give you a teaser campaign now, CT. So you learn about tools to build your awareness. So if I want to export to a new market, in this case, maybe the US or Germany or the UK, I'll first of all know how big the opportunity is in those markets, how many people are actually searching for these products that I currently are selling in my current market. I learn about how to build my awareness by, if I wanted to build a campaign, what tools are available for me, whether it's a search campaign, a video campaign. I'll know what tools are available that can help me create that awareness, leveraging those advertising platforms. Then number 3, I'll also know who are the partners that I can be able to connect with, whether it's logistics partners to understand how to go from point A to point B. If I want to focus on going by air, who are available to support me at the point to where I am to the last mile. If I want to understand the tax implications, what are the available resources? If I want to understand things about legal and the law that governs the market, what are those available? So it'll give me a whole plethora of resources that I can then go and tap into to understand, okay, I want to go to the US, here are my logistics partners, here is the opportunity in the marketplace, here are the things I should think about from a legal perspective, from tax perspective, from compliance. So it'll just like a dump of what's available for me to be able to have access to know how to go about this process.
Okay. Another question coming in is, Rosemary, what are the direct benefits of the marketplace, as opposed to just knowing how does it really affect the business, my business, anyone's business?
Good question. So I'll go back to Wangara's example. So initially began just exporting her products to people within her vicinity. She was first in Nairobi, then she moved to Murang'a, but then now she's also supplying people who are outside of her jurisdiction. But from her being online, she was able to find out, okay, I'm getting demands from people in Uganda, in South Sudan, for example, or in Rwanda or Tanzania. But that just came from her getting those phone calls. With this tool, she's able to know specifically which are the top markets that I believe have the biggest demand for my products. And therefore, I'm able then to proactively go out and seek them out, as opposed to waiting for calls to coming through and then being more reactive. To help an SME therefore become more proactive, like, okay, fine, I'm getting this inquiries, but I can also be the one looking out for where there's opportunity and then go out for them aggressively.
Okay. Here's a question from somebody who has just started the process, interestingly enough, since we started. And she says, so I've gone ahead to hand in just yesterday my information, and I'm waiting then for the verification to go through. Do I still need to go ahead with the process of sponsoring my page on other social if it will show up on Google?
Good question. So step 1 is it takes about 24 hours, hopefully max, not more than that, for you to get a phone call back from our partner to verify you. And it's an instant verification. Once they verify you, then you'll be able to then claim your business and say, now I am the owner of this business profile. And then you can then link all your social platforms, Facebook, if you want to, or your website, to your business profile. Once you have that done, now you can then begin to do your campaigns. If you want to create for yourself awareness. If you want to go and do campaigns on Facebook, on Instagram, on Google, you can then do that therefore afterwards.
Okay.
Great. And I think then we should actually also feature some of the people who have recently put their businesses online. Maybe you can, talking with your partners at Africa 118, they can, identify some of those that have come in and they have interesting businesses and from various sectors that we can talk about how they learnt about this, how they've gone about it, how soon it took for them to receive a call back, and how long it took them to get their profile pages up, and then also to see whether they are able to go through this in terms of going to the marketplace, going to the market finder, and everything else.
Absolutely. The power of example can never be underestimated, because even as people listen to this, some may say, well, I'm not really quite there, and this may be beyond what I want, and yet that may not necessarily be the truth.
Agreed, yeah. So I can definitely get a few who've joined in the last few weeks, because we are getting a lot of phone calls coming through since we began this show. So thank you very much for that. And we can definitely spotlight one or two that have been able to create their profiles in the last few weeks, ask them about the experiences, and see how we can hold their hand for the next journey to then be able to expand beyond current market to new markets with these new tools.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. So another question is, yesterday, somebody who was listening keenly, you talked about finance for business on the Google. So how can Google help, and at what stage would the financing come in?
Right. So right now, because we don't really offer financing solutions yet as Google, what we do is we partner with institutions, in this case, banks, microfinance companies who are offering currently solutions today. Just to highlight to you, we do list them on our website. So if you are to go and click on access to finance, you'll see who the partners that we've been able to engage in the last few months, who then are able to provide to the SMEs looking for financing what's available. So what we do is we just highlight to the SME who are the partners currently today who are offering financing. You find them on our website. And when you click to them from our website, you'll go directly to their landing page to then be able to apply for a loan. So, for example, I walk them through Pesesha, who currently are offering loans right now that are currently competitive in the marketplace. You just click on the link to Pesesha, select your country, go through the application form, and then you'll get a phone call back from somebody from Pesesha who will then go through your form and see what your requirements are, and hopefully you'll be able to qualify for the funding.
I guess then the question is, what are the minimum requirements before I go in there and then I'm told, we only finance businesses that have 15 employees, that are in 3 different regions, that have a daily turnover of 10,000 shillings. Is there any minimum criteria, or let's just use the Kenyan word, what are the conditionalities?
Yeah, and that's a good question, Eric. So it will vary by the institution. So in this case with Pesesha, they're able to offer loans as low as, you can see, as low as 10,000 shillings, right, as their first category. That means they're truly at the microfinance level, right? So in this case, you have to just, unfortunately, just go through the journey and figure out what are their processes to determine eligibility. But in this case, you can see from this example, it could be as low as 10,000 shillings to an SME who's approved. So I won't be able to speak to their requirements for what they offer, but at least you can be able to start the process now and hopefully understand once you get a phone call from Pesesha on what you're qualified for and how and the criteria for eligibility. But it will vary with Pesesha, it will vary with DTB. So every bank will have their own criteria and their own minimum threshold, but at least you can figure out who are the partners today who are offering loans to SMEs, and you can find them from our website.
Does it get easier for individuals who go through their Google page, for example, to get this kind of financing? Is it a leg up because you've gotten your page done?
Yes. So the key, good question though. So yes. So what we say is at least we want to help the SMEs become market ready. That way they've come from being an offline only SME to now they have a website. They can be found by customers. They even have a demand pipeline of people who are asking for their queries. So when they go to the bank and say, bank, I have a website, I have a product that currently has a great demand for SMEs, but I'm unable to meet the demand because I lack the basics, the financial background. Here is my pipeline, here is my presence, here are my clicks over the last few weeks, few months. So you're able to show that, you truly have done your part to get market ready. And now you just need them to give you the next step to help you then meet that demand and follow through on the value chain. So yes, it does help if you are able to show that you are online, you have already pipeline of demand of customers, and now you're doing your part to then get yourself up on the ground.
Great conversation as always, Rosemary, and thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And yeah, we look forward to speaking with more and more entrepreneurs who have gotten into the Google platform and who have taken advantage of this, just to hear how what their experience is so far.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Remember, you can just learn all this information by, first of all, if you want to get yourself sorted on this, getting your business online, google.africa118.co.ke. Just google.africa118.co.ke. It'll open a page. That page has a form that you can fill. You fill that form. You can also request a call back. They call you back. They ask you, so, all right, what's your business? How can we help you? And they get your business profile up in no time. They say within 24 hours, that's done. At the same time, you want to learn a lot more about the market finder, about the marketplace, g.co/Grow Africa. That's g.co/Grow Africa. Or just go and type on the Google search bar, Rise Up Google, and it'll open the Google Rise Up and Google Grow page. And then you can take advantage of all that, learn and take advantage. 20 minutes after 9, we have more conversations with Rosemary Momanyu appear tomorrow.
Spice up your life.
Okay, it's going to be mostly cloudy in Nairobi through parts of today. Highs of 24 and lows of 17. Mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 19 degrees. Highs of 24 and lows of 14. And partly sunny in Nyeri. Throughout today, 23 the high and lows of 14. Eldoret is mostly cloudy at 16 degrees today. There will be highs of 22 and lows of 12. It's mostly sunny in Kisumu at 23. Highs of 27 and lows of 19. Also sunny conditions will be in Kakamega. 22 at the moment. Highs of 27. Mombasa is still experiencing rain here and there. Highs of 29 and lows of 25. Where in Malindi, it's sunny all through. 26 the high and lows of 16. It'll be mostly sunny in Kampala today. Highs of 24 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam continues to experience rain showers. Highs of 28 and lows of 24. In Johannesburg, it's mostly cloudy at 15. Highs of 22 and lows of 12. Where in Lagos, it's also mostly cloudy at 31 high and lows of 25. Looking into Kinshasa, it's mostly sunny at 24, highs of 34, and coming down to lows of 23. Across the world in Beijing, it's sunny at 20. As getting towards the early evening, the sun is still out, highs of 20 and lows of 4. Paris is clear at 11, highs of 13 and lows of 9. Where in London, it's 11 degrees, highs of 13 and lows of 11. And finally, it's Thursday in New York as well, highs of 19 and lows of 9.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
10 minutes after 9, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Eric Latif, Nduoko, C.T. Muga in the house. President Uhuru Kenyatta is supposed to fulfill a constitutional requirement today, and this is addressing a joint sitting of Parliament once every year. So he is going to do that this afternoon in Parliament. Members of the National Assembly and the Senate will gather together and listen to his speech. And this will be the State of the Nation address. Looking at the headlines in the two papers this morning, Uhuru's last bullet, eyes on the prize. President Uhuru Kenyatta makes his second last State of the Nation address in Parliament this afternoon on the back of gripping national challenges that have recast his priorities. Among them, corona pandemic, BBI and the handshake, big plans, no cash, the economy is battered, public debt and unemployment are at a record level with no sign of respite. The Big Four agenda, it's a race against time and money for pet projects meant to secure the president's legacy. The Nation says Kenyans' wish list to Uhuru, the weight of expectations will be on the president as he addresses some of the critical issues facing the country in his annual State of the Nation speech. Some of these issues weighing down Kenyans include the impact of COVID-19 on both the healthcare system and the economy. And with children staying away from school for close to a year, Kenyans will also be looking out for solutions to the woes facing the education sector and the path to a safe reopening. 5 points that the Nation editors highlight as the major issues: COVID-19 pandemic, battered economy. COVID-19 has killed jobs, wiped out businesses and livelihoods, and deepened the debt hole. What is the way out? Corruption, the EACC, the DCI investigations, and DPP prosecutions offering Kenyans little hope. Education, a year with learners home. Crime and mental health, violent crime, murders, mental breakdown, suicide on the rise, attributed to growing poverty and desperation. Can the president offer hope? Big plate, big number of things to address. Many of them require more than just words, not just rhetoric, but action. Which of them do you see him giving action?
Well, I think there's a brilliant opportunity is presented, like you say, to give very flowery things that don't then hold any weight when it comes to actual change on the ground. It could be a time where he, wants to give hope, but then the hope just rests in the words and then doesn't come out of it. And say that, we as Kenyans can hold on and there's a horizon and the future looks very bright. Even though we've come out of a very difficult or still in a very difficult position, there's still an opportunity for us to come out of it. Well and good. I mean, it could be anything. There was an elephant stuck in a hole there that we saw on the news, for example. It took them 12 hours, but they eventually got out, right? But in this case... And it was alive, still alive. But in this case, what is it? There has to be something tangible that Kenyans will be able to see and hold on to. It can't just be that the economy will get better and then there will be more jobs. It's been said before. It's got to be something that Kenyans can actually say, oh, okay, beyond holding on to hope, this is something real. Are there things that you can do to revive or jumpstart the economy? Are there laws that you can put in place or directives that you can put out to make sure, for example, that parents and students are really worried about, okay, what is going to happen? Whereas an option that we could actually use was not provided when it came to the fact that we could not be in school. Is there something that you can do to make sure that you have such a solid education sector in this country that come what may, children will not have to be out of school? Is there something in terms of a tangible promise and following action that you can deliver to Kenyans with this speech? So it's not just a speech to be said that on November, what's today's date? That there was a state of a nation and that's it. It's got to be something that Kenyans will be able to hold on to and say, actually, this is going to play out and it's going to happen. It cannot be that after the speech, Kenyans say, okay, nice speech, where were we as you were? It can't be. It has to be something that we'll look forward to and say, yeah, I expect that there should be something in terms of improving the education sector. And I'm not talking about going back to school after COVID. I'm talking about saying that a system must be developed so strong that regardless of what happens, we will be able to keep children in school, that you will not have to suffer the effects of not being able to be in school physically and your learning cannot continue. Tangible, operationalized things must come out of this. The country has been on its knees for too long. Even before then, it was already then with the economy.
What if they're tangible but they can't be operationalized?
Why wouldn't they be operationalized?
Because we don't have money.
They don't have money, but you always tell us, it's a lie. You always say that they cannot use that excuse of not having money. Not this government. Maybe another one. There's money.
So we know where the money is.
So you go get it.
Get it. The DPP confirmed what I've always said. He told us 244 billion shillings. That's what we Kenyans have managed to steal from ourselves. And in case you're thinking you've never stolen anything, you are represented. No one asked for your permission, but you've been represented. And that alone, remember, the taxman is also complaining that there are people who owe the taxman money, but they've held up the money they should pay because they've gone to court.
Yes.
And then you have counties with their issues. When they will say and claim that their revenue collection is right up there and they're doing exactly what they should do. If indeed that was the case, then they really shouldn't be complaining very much about the delays in disbursements from the national government, should they?
I think it would be very, very, very good if the president can just face the truth and then come and tell us the truth. Use this opportunity today to come and tell us, guys, COVID-19 has come. COVID-19 has changed very many things in how we run. Also, COVID-19 has given us an opportunity to be honest with one another. So, honesty number one, we were not ready. We had never had any system in place that could have sorted out a pandemic if it came. This pandemic, only God has saved us from the hard effects of the pandemic, but we are still in it and we are facing the heat. Number two, we don't have that much money that we are able to raise and distribute for operations. Because of what has happened in COVID, we're not able to raise enough revenue. So the reason why, for example, we are not even able to disburse money to the counties is because we don't have cash, hard cash. We have to pay a lot of the money that we're receiving to repay our debt. We don't have enough money. Can you just come out and say, in that whole spirit of also openness and transparency, let him say, I've heard that Kenyans have been asking for the details of all the debt that we hold. And those details have directed that information just be supplied, everything. First of all, to the Parliamentary Budget Office, and then to the public. Everything, every detail, every dot, every cross, every full stop, every comma, all the details out there. This is where we are as a country. Now, be that as it may, what can we do? So we as a government have kidogo cash here and there, and we can do this and the other. What is it that people are facing right now? People are still facing distress in terms of financial distress. How can the government support that? So Kazi Mtaani was coming to an end. The Inua Jamii was just a one-off payment of 8,000 shillings to about 1 million or so elderly persons. What is it that we can do going forward? And then talk about the children who've been at home and they've missed schooling because of the COVID-19, and we don't even know, we can't see the end of this. So what can he do? You talked about it the other day. It's possible for the government to just buy small radios and distribute to those areas that don't have, families that don't have radios. The government must have this information. They know who cannot afford. Ensure that we roll out this education on radio.
Yeah,
and let everybody now attend on radio. Can we just get to a point where we say, all right, so this is where we are. Come up and talk about his Big Four agenda. Big Four agenda. Manufacturing, we are trying to kickstart and jumpstart manufacturing. We will not achieve the targets that we set off in 2017. We will not achieve the targets that we set off in housing in 2017. This is where we are. This is what is happening. We've laid the ground. We've laid the foundation. We've started the ones that are showing the proof of concept. They are running, but we will not be able to continue there. We will not be able to do this and the other. And then, cut the what again according to your cloth.
If I may ask a question, Eric, I really have to ask this question. Okay, I'm going to take you back into history just a little bit for a little while.
All right.
Nursery school, early primary. Did you read fairy tales? Okay. I think, and they had some influence on you. Everything you've said, is a fairy tale.
There are even proverbs. Zimwi likujualo, halikuli likakwisha.
This
is a whole zimwi that juas me.
It
will not finish me.
If indeed I could actually be proved absolutely wrong and that this is actually possible, the president of the nation coming out and simply leveling with us and saying, folks, this is really it. He may even want to. Do you see so-called advisors telling him, carry on? Do you see it actually genuinely happening?
Unfortunately, no. And I asked myself the question, why? So, yeah, you can say it's then that exposes us to the people that we've borrowed from, that exposes us to the international community, that then would make, if you're saying they don't have money, then...
It's as though they don't know what state we are in.
They know they can see.
They know they can see, and they know we are juggling. But one could argue the whole world is juggling. That's a question of just how good you are juggling. All right? Solutions to the problems are not a secret. And in that you are right. How to find something that can actually work, that is really not the problem here. We go back to the same old problem, but I want to give it a little twist. Okay? The twist is the opportunity that COVID has provided, and you've mentioned it. This is an unusual situation. The circumstances are unusual. And under those circumstances, if someone did something unusual, it would be okay. Because the truth of the matter is, things aren't getting better.
No, the person who coined the term desperate times call for desperate measures. Then to be able to do the things that you would not ordinarily do. And I think that is now when you would beg that he actually would say something like that. To tell the people, look, all this time you guys have some lofty ambitions of what would happen with the economy or with the country because there are people working behind the scenes. Or that there is this wellspring of money that we just go dip our hands in and we come and sort out the problem. To be able to come and tell Kenyans that, okay, guys, things are not good right now. What it does, I mean, you've given this example before. When a father and a mother look at the situation of things in the house and they say, okay, things are a little bit bad. That toy that we would have bought for this child is not going to work. That Sunday outing that would have taken you to buy you a treat, it's not going to happen. So if you bring everybody to the same table and say, okay, guys, this is what we are going through at the moment, then you would not be, the children would not expect that something would jump out at them. But they know that this is the way we're going to go for some time as we work towards making things better.
Actually, other parents would even be more innovative. You say, so you needed a toy, I'm going to make a toy.
I'll make it for you.
Let me make a toy. You needed a treat, so the treat that I'm going to be able to afford is not that kind of treat, but I can give you another treat.
I can cook something at home.
Yes.
That
kind of thing, and you can
example
enjoy
is a
it.
really perfect one because it's a reality of how even leaders look at the citizenry. The analogies are constant and they're always fast flowing about having a father-like attitude, having a mother-like attitude. That's as far as it goes. But if you consider it, look at how it carries on into how we perceive. The father-like figure of the government can't now come and tell you, I don't have money to pay fees. I am going to negotiate with the school. This is a lovely conversation to have with your children so that they know money is something that isn't always there. Introduce it early so that they understand. If you really don't have it and the discussions you have in the school are not working and the child has to go home, it would be better if you introduce the topic to the child before the school tells them. Now, you may think it's a bad idea. I think it's an excellent idea. Let your children grow up knowing the truth about these things and not to assume that parents will solve all problems. You need to tell them, this one I cannot solve, but give me time, I'll think about it and I will see. This one I cannot buy. Give me time. Probably at this particular point in time, introduce even how you make your money and say, I will have some money, I may be able to buy this. Or I can't buy what you want, but this is what I can afford. Is it okay?
So that you're all on the same level of understanding.
You see, that mindset that we seem to have as parents, as adults in this country, where children are supposed to be shielded from certain realities, seems to be the same attitude the government has. Actually, many of us who are making this discussion are actually grown up. Yes. We don't need to be shielded. Our
and you don't need to treat your citizenry like complete
and
idiots.
our children also don't need to be shielded from this.
Like babies.
No, they need to be actually told that this is the reality so that they understand why certain actions are being taken. But if you take actions and it hasn't been explained, then you have a problem.
Let me give you a brilliant example of this. A couple of weeks ago, Kazim Tani, it is right, with PS Hinga, who was sorting out the payments for these individuals after the work that they had done. There was a delay in the money that was supposed to come for him to then pay out. What did this man do? He went on all platforms that were available to him, and he said, we haven't paid you your money yet. These are the reasons why we have not received the money that we were expecting. And in a day or two, this money will have been sent to our account. And then from there, we will be in contact with Safaricom. And then we will be able to pay out. Guess what? There was no fuss. Did you see people in the streets?
Nope.
Did you see people shouting
Just not
from all the
understanding.
corners? No. 2 days later, the same man came and said, we have received the money. And we have now spoken with Safaricom. And the disbursement will be done.
Begin.
In the afternoon of the same day, he had a tabled report of money that had been sent out, the money that bounced because people's phones had not been registered, the money that was remaining after everything that had come in. So he showed the money that came in, he showed the money that was paid out, and he showed what they had left. And that money that was left was because the individuals to whom they had sent money and their phones had not been registered, they were still holding that money. So that when you sort out your phone, we will pay you. Nobody shouted, but he told the truth. We don't have the money, but we know you. We are going to sort it out. People understood, and then we know what we can do moving forward. Why would it be so difficult to do that on a grander scale?
Because of everything else. You came and you promised that you were going to deliver us. You're going to
At the beginning of Kazim Tani, you promised everybody that they would work, and after 2 weeks you would pay them.
Yeah.
Was not the case.
Yeah, it
They
was.
had to delay.
It was.
No. When they were paying, they had to delay.
Yeah,
this
they
money
had to
that
delay,
this
yes.
money that they were paying was a month late. You had promised that after every 2 weeks you will
You'll
pay
be
them.
receiving your money.
You're breaking your promise, but you're still explaining to people the reasons why. Do you see?
Yeah.
That's being open. And that's, you see, this gentleman is not only being accountable, he is actually being open. And he's telling you this is where we are. Now, it's not that people don't understand. They do, because what is measured at the national level, people experience in their own homes. A budget deficit. You can, all these things we talk about with lofty languages, and people experience these things on a daily
cut
basis.
back on excesses. You
Yes,
look
you
at
do.
what is it that's an excess. So we usually take a holiday. We're not going to take a holiday this year. We usually do this and the other. We're not going to do that. We are reducing. This government is still sponsoring and events and conferences and seminars and all. And we are sitting here wondering, so where are we going to get money from? That meeting that was held with the governors and the deputy governors in Naivasha, how much did it cost?
How much did it cost for people to go to Naivasha?
In
Meanwhile,
terms
are
of
we not
all
having-
those days that
Yeah.
people sat there,
What-
all
what-
the allowances, all the support staff that
What
were
was that
around
at
there,
the BBI meeting?
the BBI meetings, all of this, if we started just cutting back, how much would we be able to save? And then how can we put that money? Someone can say, it's not going to be much. Even if you reduce, it's just going to be about what, about 3 billion? What? 3 billion?
Do you know what 3 billion
3
can
billion,
do?
how much can 3 billion do? It can do a lot. How can you take 3 billion into another sector? Must you have this conversation the way you're having it? If you've been having conversations, for example, as governors, and you've been doing these conversations and these seminars with the president, these summits with the president online, you could have done this summit on BBI online. How much did you spend? That is one. If we can get to a point where we're just honest and stop talking about pushing for a referendum next year that's going to cost us, is it 14 billion shillings or 2 billion shillings when we are heavily discounted and we can be shown how to run it on 2 billion. Even that 2 billion shillings, why must we spend it?
If politics lives up to the reputation that people have believed it has, and that it's a dishonest trade, then they would be going against their own rules if they started telling us the truth. But given where we are, unfortunately, truth is an ally here.
It is. And if Uhuru
Not in any
Kenyatta,
way.
if Uhuru Kenyatta and his government administration is looking for a win, that's the win I would give today. That's the win that if you're talking for low-hanging fruit, again, looking for confidence from your people in terms of looking for a re-establishment of any kind of hope or faith that they have, tell Kenyans as it is. Because guess what? They can see the rest. They can see that certain people are stealing money. They can see that scandals are rife across board, whether it is the Ministry of Health, wherever it is. Kenyans can see. So give them another truth that they will be able to hang on
And
to.
they can also see that those in government seem to be just getting along fine.
Yes,
with their lives.
that's another reality for them. Whereas you're struggling, you couldn't do 3 meals a day. Now you're struggling to do 2. In some cases, struggling to even do 1.
Do you see the motorcades and chase cars reducing?
No, those things are not
That hasn't
reducing.
reduced.
Somebody's life is even
same
flourishing.
Now,
looking better.
That disparity is harmful. You need, and Eric, this one I believe you really have it spot on, because the truth here is something that actually has serious legitimate currency. And it's a constant, because once you've said it, it's the truth. Variation will not feature.
Yeah.
You've said it, and it's
the
that.
truth.
But the problem with these half-truths is that, man, you're going to have to give it variation and then another variation.
When a relationship is broken, you gain back that trust by just being truthful.
Yes.
So you're caught with your hand in the cookie jar and you say,
yes.
Yes.
This is where we are.
Yes.
The
you
cookie
caught
jar
me.
didn't jump into my hands. It is
Just
my
be
hand
me.
that went
It is
into the
I
cookie.
who put my hand in the cookie jar, and here I am. I am sorry. I admit I'm on the wrong. You can't just think, that's not a cookie jar. I mean, that's
Actually,
a
there were
bowl.
no cookies in the jar.
That's a bowl.
But that's not even a jar.
Let's take a break at 10:15, and also we invite you to call us 0719-012-600. What is it that you'd like the president to tell the nation today? What would you like the president to tell the nation today? He's going to be delivering the State of the Nation address to the joint sitting of Parliament this afternoon. What would you like to hear from him? Shortly, let's take a look at traffic.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It has been a tough year for your business, hasn't it? But you hung in there. You pressed on. You persevered. And now it's time to rise up. It's time to get ready, to get going, to get selling. And Google is here to help you rise up. Get free training and tools to help your businesses adapt and grow online. Visit g.co/Grow Africa to start now.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Looking much better in some parts, guys. Mombasa Road not so bad anymore. I think it's now opened on Langata Road as well as in Gong Road. Coming to the city from Thika Road also looking pretty good. We're officially out of traffic now. I don't think we'll see any more bumps, as it were, for morning traffic. Construction of the expressway continues. Now take it like this, all the way from Mombasa Road to Westlands. The construction is taking place, and there's several other people who are doing other things to make sure that this goes smoothly, from Kenya Power and such. So this one just needs you to have a little of patience for the next couple of months. So that one will cause some traffic, whichever way you look at it. Okay? All right. Talk to us through the day if you need to. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Mr. Speaker, sir. So this is what the president will be saying in the afternoon as he delivers a State of the Nation address to a joint sitting of Parliament. Many things that Kenyans would like to hear. What is it that you would like to hear? 0719-012-600. We are saying this morning that we'd like the truth. That's it. Mr. President, just come, level up with us. Just tell us the truth. This is where we are in terms of COVID. We cannot even tabulate the number of people who have died in a day. We can only tell that people died 3 months after they died. And so even the numbers we are announcing on a daily basis that those people have died, we don't know when they died. We are that basic. That's where we are. We don't have enough money to send to the counties, to disburse to the counties. Yes, we have agreed that we are going to send 316.5 billion shillings to the counties. We are behind that. Why? Because we don't have money. We have a lot of debt to pay, and that thing is really now getting to stress us. We are not raising enough money through our revenue because we collect money from you guys, and you guys don't have income, so we really can't collect money. Just tell us the truth. And then now we all together can come up and agree how can we then address our affairs.
I actually supported you wholeheartedly, but I want to also wholeheartedly consider this perspective.
Okay.
There are things the president cannot actually say. He cannot. No. Not because they're not true or that they actually cannot be said, but it will not be received in a way that may be useful.
By whom?
By the people he's talking to. That's us.
So how are we likely to receive it? We shall
Adverse-
react. We shall get more depressed than we are.
Yes.
It's basically telling us, I have come home and I have no food, and you're like,
Let me give you an example of what I mean. For instance, when care and treatment for HIV was initiated and was well funded, one of the core components of that process was counseling. And the reason was this. It was clearly found that when people were tested and they were told point blank, excuse me, we've tested you and you're HIV positive, you're more or less killing that person.
Yeah.
Simply because the stigmata, everything related to it couldn't be seen in any positive light. So the counseling process was actually meant to tell you what the truth is, but break it down so that it is acceptable.
You have a way of
yes,
receiving and internalizing.
Yes, and saying, okay, this is it. Meaning, if you are to give a message of that sort, like the one you're saying, it can't be. It has to be diluted.
It can't be today. It should have happened like 2 months ago.
Yes.
Either that or don't tell.
Pre-testing, counseling, and then now.
Now, since that hasn't happened, maybe the counseling process can begin.
So you can start today and then give us the proper shot.
Our situation is not as good as we would want it to be. There are things we are still working on and trying to find solutions to. For instance, let's start with education. All right? Break it down and say, I will be addressing you again to tell you how far we've gone with these arrangements so that you understand. Break it down. But you eventually get to the truth that you're speaking of. But
don't come and give us everything.
But that suit appeal, the one which looks like a 10 shilling coin and actually is the same size as a 10 shilling coin. Wow. That one is a bit difficult to swallow. You need to break it into small pieces. It'll still end up in you. It'll still do what it's supposed to do.
Let's hear from Ed Gitonga, our friend in Nyeri. Good morning.
Morning, people.
How are you today?
Good morning, person. How are you?
Nyeri.
I'm doing good. Anyway, now. Here's the thing. I mean, Nanyuki again. So here's the thing. I don't expect the president to start speaking like he's launching a manifesto.
Yeah.
Don't give me promises that are not going to work. Don't start telling me about the million development goals that have never even started. I expect the president to, as City is saying, handle the bull by the horns. I expect him, by the way, I really expect him to give us a clear path on how he's going to stimulate back the economy. And mind you, please, Mr. President, don't talk about getting some other loans somewhere. You have overborrowed. You have stretched the limits.
He has even borrowed Sadaka at Vatican.
I can tell you. We are one, don't we? Yeah, and I can tell you this, and the funny thing is, Bona Evangelist. The funny thing is, even the money that has been borrowed before, we've not seen anything tangible that has been done. Yes. So don't go again, Mr. President, to borrow cash again. It's not going to work. Okay, just tell us that okay, guys, I know I've messed up for the past 7 years that I've been with you. Guys, I really want to do this, and this because I know I've messed up. Now we only have this time, and I'll do this for you. Because honestly, Mr. President, please don't make promises that you know you haven't done in the past 8 years. Make solutions. That is all.
Asante sana, Ed. Let's go to Langata. Have a good day. Raymond in Langata, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you today?
I'm very fine, and you?
Fine. Well, thank you.
What would you like to hear from the president today?
For me, I'm not expecting much from him. First, I know the first thing that he'll say about corruption is that my government is sending a very stern warning to those who are corrupt. The same story that has been saying since 2013. And also the second thing that I'm expecting that he'll talk about is the constitutional moment and his big four agenda which has failed to take off. For example, healthcare, which is very critical to Kenyans. I think the government has not been serious about this. And just the other day, the CS Health was talking about, that government is not going to cater for those COVID-19 patients.
Yep.
And that these are something very critical. Like health is a very critical part of agenda. Personally, I do not expect much from him. I think we are used to the same thing without action. So I do not expect much from the president.
Well, okay. Thank you very much, Raymond. Jimmy in Malindi, good morning.
Good morning, too.
How are you today?
We are thankful to the Almighty God.
Very good.
And for his protection for this sunlight.
What do you hope to hear from the president?
What I hope to hear from the president is about the COVID billionaires. At least since there's a report that we are still waiting for, So this will be very important if he talks something to do with the COVID billionaires. And it would also be important for me.
What new thing do you want him to say?
New thing?
Yeah, about the COVID billionaires.
About the COVID billionaires?
What he hasn't said before.
I wish there was an old thing.
I'm
I wish there was
ordering
an old
that an
thing that
investigation take place within 21 days. What new thing?
Just anything that is new. I don't specify. I may degrade or I may upgrade it, but I don't specify. But I wish he talks something to do with COVID billionaires.
Okay.
And also, I'm expecting him to blame Kenyans for the spread of COVID. Sadly, I'm expecting him to tell Magoha why the schools are opening, and where I am now from a tall building, I'm looking in a school where kids are playing football together, no masks, nothing, and there are schools which we are having kids with COVID being found in some schools.
Yeah.
And in those schools, you hear there are 6 kids, 16 kids, but these 16 kids, how many people did they come in contact with? So is the COVID still waiting to germinate? So you see, in the other kids. So I think the spread of COVID is highly coming from these schools, because these kids, they mix up, then they go to their homes, and kids are reckless. You see, look, I can see no social distance kabisa there, no masks. So this is, sincerely speaking, if there's COVID in Kenya, I don't understand why Magoha would have let this thing go. Anyway, a dormant ministry does not spread money. So, money has to move in ministries. So things have to work out.
Thank you, Jimmy.
But this is not how it should be.
Let's hear from Lydia. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning, Spice FM. Thank you for your good debate. I want to say that our President Kenyatta should try and bring back the system of President Kibaki, a small government, so that there's more money to provide services. Now, BBI, we had enough. There should not be time for BBI with coronavirus. They raised, under the post-election violence, they raised the trade license, increased it by 75%. How can they be allowed to raise from 20,000 trade license to 35,000? There should not be reason to raise things by 75%. It's causing poverty and bankruptcy to businesses. So BBI does not know good knowledge. So leave BBI aside and focus. And then the post-election violence demanded VAT on business rents. Businesses are already paying VAT on sales. How can VAT also be paid on business rents? Then they wanted rents, the VAT on house rents. Then they changed it to withholding tax. We don't need BBI's knowledge at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you very much. We'll see what the president says this afternoon. Personally, I have much expectation, but the expectation is more on it's going to be one of those usual messages. Like what he delivered on, what was it? Mashujaa Day. Constitutional moment, fight against corruption. We need to come together and beat this virus. And that's it. Anyway, tell us today's proverb.
If while climbing a tree, you insist on going beyond the top, well then, the earth, that is my own addition. The proverb didn't have well then, I've added that. The earth will be waiting for you.
Why this proverb today?
The benefits of excesses, the rewards of excesses, the punishments that come with excesses. Take your pick.
And John is saying that's the direct opposite of mpandangazi hushuka.
Understand boundaries. The person who shukas,
juu,
yes,
ngoje chini.
Precisely. You see, someone reaches the end of the ngazi, shukas. This one goes beyond the end of the ngazi. Yes. So what do you expect? There's no ngazi to shuka to. So what do you think is going to happen to you?
Reach for the stars. flying too close to the sun.
You see, you can be facetious and talk about flying lessons and what have you. But we know very well that the end result of everything we're going to talk about will be you'll go back to where you started. And not quite in the same posture that you started with. Yes.
You must come down.
Yes.
Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow, Friday the 13th. The last Friday the 13th was the day that COVID was announced in the country. Hiya. Okay, so tomorrow, now until then, you have music, you have Monique, you have the adults in the room, you have more music, and then you'll have us tomorrow morning. Say goodbye. And
Goodbye. Tomorrow. Please remember, put on your mask, social distancing, and wash your hands.
Why?
Because COVID is still here with us.
All right. Add on the boost your immunity conversation.
That's true.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock. Have a lovely day.